Chapter 51, Four Pillars Leader. Chapter 51, Four Pillars Leader. The slums in the imperial capital were the darkest corners of the empire. Seedy, good, devious, and all other kinds of people mixed in here, along with the downed shacks painted a perfectly wretched image. Any self-respecting man who had some money on the side would never choose to live here. Only those living from one day to the next, and the truly poor stayed here, waiting for the day that would rob them of their lives. Yet in the worst corner of the slums was a courtyard the people feared to the point of being afraid to step through its doors. Even if the vilest and most sinister man was to wander by happenstance here, he would be warned to leave this house. This courtyard was unoccupied, but at night, there were eerie whispers coming from it. Some braved to investigate, but it was as if their traces in this world vanished the moment they stepped foot inside. Recently, some bone-tempering and even a profound heaven expert charged in, fearing no evil afterwards. Well, there was no news. They were gone all the same. From that moment, the courtyard became a taboo, avoided by the strong and weak alike on a full moon night, when the slums had turned unusually quiet. The people had gone home earlier and as far away from the demonic courtyard as possible, but it was then that a faint lantern lit up in the courtyard. It was akin to ghost fire, flickering on and off in a ruined room of the courtyard. An elderly with white temples sat in a pleased manner on a tutor's chair, waving a goose-feathered fan. His half-lidded eyes flashed here and there, and his mouth was twisted at the corners. It was as if the world's suffering and happiness were beneath him. Two old men stood behind, one with black hair and the other with white hair. Their eyes were closed, but their powerful auras identified them as experts, preventing any living creature from approaching 100 meters around them. Even a harmless beetle would find its tiny heart reeked with fear. Whoosh! A sound broke the silence, and a black-clothed man suddenly appeared outside the room. He had a bamboo hat that hid his features. The sitting old man stopped fanning and smiled. "Valley Lord Yu, how is it progressing?" The bamboo-wearing man was Hell Valley's Valley Lord, Yuanshan. Sighing, Yuanshan shook his head. A dozen years of painstaking effort was ruined. The Emperor ordered for Hell Valley to stay away from Windgaze City. The same goes for the other houses. He must have sensed something. Oh. The old man raised an eyebrow with a smile. The Emperor is planning on enacting the secret Pearl Order? My guess is yes. Yuanshan's face grew angry. They got luck on their side last time, but next time, it won't be so simple. Emperor wants to raise the 8th house, but we shall see if the clan can live to see that day. Ha ha ha. Valley Lord Yu, ease your anger. A loss is a loss. Why make excuses? The old man was still calm, yet his words were sharp and filled with disdain. Hell Valley is one of the 7 noble houses, yet it can't even deal with 3 common clans. The time of its fall must be close at hand. Yuanshan snapped, his power exploding. Peak profound heaven cultivation smashed the windows to splinters. He unleashed all of it to pressure the old man. Zhuge Changfeng, you were the one who told me of the contents of the secret Pearl Order. It was also you who said the Emperor wants to help in the rise of the 8th house. The dozen years plan also came from you. So how can you speak like this? Yuanshan bellowed, go to hell. The smile never left the old man's face, still sitting calmly and fanning slowly. Boom. Just when the pressure was drawing near Zhuge Changfeng, the black and white elders behind him opened their eyes at that moment. One's eyes flashed black while the other's flashed white. A ripple echoed outwards and clashed with Yuanshan's display of power, creating a jarring sound. The entire slums shook. Yuanshan's felt a sweetness in his throat and spat blood as his face paled. The 2 elders closed their eyes again, while Zhuge Changfeng swayed the fan like nothing had happened, still sporting that ever-present smile. Yuanshan watched the black and white elders incredulously. Yin-yang elders? Zhuge Changfeng nodded. Valley Lord Yu sure is knowledgeable. These seniors haven't shown up over the past century. I find it amazing that you still recognize them. Grinding his teeth in anger, Yuanshan panted while also spitting blood now and then, but the look he had when he turned to the elders was now one of fear. You are worthy of being Tianyu's #1 sage, for Pillars' leader, Prime Minister Zhuge. To be able to make these monsters leave their mountain, not even that Fang Qiubai from the Divine Dragons can compare to you. Ha ha ha, Valley Lord Yu is exaggerating. I am not worthy of such a title. I do not dare face the imperial family in the open just yet. Zhuge Changfeng let out a short laugh, but the confidence he exuded was unshakable. Yuanshan snorted and muttered, Prime Minister Zhuge is as modest as he is arrogant. Who in the Tianyu Empire can match your power? Not even the imperial family can. Sigh, I can see why you failed in Windgaze City. In this world, strength and weakness aren't obvious at a glance. Zhuge Changfeng sighed as he looked at the sky. Furthermore, I am not the #1 sage in Tianyu. If not you, then who? That person above me. Zhuge Changfeng pointed upward with a grave expression Yu Wanshan disdained. You're talking about that senile emperor? Senile? Zhuge Changfeng chuckled. I've been a prime minister in the imperial court for 40 years now, and I still can't read him. Valley Lord Yu, go back. Make sure to not cause any further trouble. Zhuge Changfeng swayed his fan as his countenance went back to normal. Be careful to not give that old man the perfect chance to remove you for good. Humph, the imperial family's power is hardly enough to deal with my Hell Valley. Yu Wanshan grinned, but when he saw the cold look in Zhuge Changfeng's eye, he didn't continue. He just cupped his hands and vanished in the night after Yu Wanshan left. Zhuge Changfeng took a deep breath and looked to the heavens. Your Majesty, what is your plan? What is the secret pearl order? Asterisk asterisk asterisk. 3 months later, in the misty forest at the foot of Blackwind Mountain, Zhuge Fan stood near a frigid blood pool, holding a gourd. His hands performed signs and red dots flew from the pool into the gourd. A smile tugged at Zhuge Fan's face as he watched the wiggling red dots. This blood pond was something Zhuge Fan made to raise the frigid pool snowworm. Though, its name should more aptly be frigid pool bloodworm. Zhuge Fan used a secret art from the 9 Serenities secret records to train this particular demonic creature. So it not only retained the parasitic ability of the frigid pool snowworm, but it also connected to Zhuge Fan through telepathy. It could now work in tandem with him in performing a secret and evil magic art from the 9 Serenities secret records. The blood curse was a demonic cultivator's way of controlling his men. Once he put the blood curse on someone, they had to obey him for life. If not, the blood curse would flare up and the victim would die of blood explosion, a cruel and savage ending. But the blood curse had a fatal flaw. If the target was stronger than the caster, the later would be devoured. This wasn't anything good for Zhuge Fan, but now that Zhuge Fan had the bloodworm, this flaw could be eliminated. Since the bloodworm lived in the target's body, they would never be able to remove the blood curse. With this special demonic creature, Zhuge Fan would be in control of a large group of experts to assist him. If anyone heard of this, they'd come to kill Zhuge Fan themselves, even Radiant Stage experts. This demonic creature was an abomination, an affront to heaven. Any listener would shiver hearing one could make any expert into a slave. With a maniac grin on his face, Zhuge Fan took the gourd filled with bloodworms and left Misty Forest. He performed a hand sign and the forest's fog turned bloody, barring any entry. This was his rearing grounds. Why would he ever let another find it? Stashing the gourd in his ring, Zhuge Fan returned to Blackwind Mountain. On his way, he paid attention to every grass, every tree to make sure all was in order. Over the past 3 months, besides the imperial family sending thousands of spirit stones and hundreds of pills, the Veiled Dragon Pavilion also sent 2,000 spirit stones. He had enough spirit stones on hand that he could flaunt his array grandmaster's skills. Plus, with the natural array here, he could still set up some decent defensive array even without such an amount of spirit stones. To the east of Blackwind Mountain was the Azure Dragon position under the wood attribute. It was a place filled with vitality. As such, Zhuge Fan set up a 5th grade array, Poison Dragon Array. Poisonous thickets grew inside the array and the miasma above them would never scatter. Even a profound heaven expert would find it hard to escape. With his life to the west was the White Tiger position under the metal attribute. It was a place filled with sharp and overgrown plants. Zhuge Fan set up a 5th grade array, Dazzling Gold Array. 9 suns shined brightly within the array in every direction that no one could walk with their eyes open. Each ray of golden light was like a sharp sword, capable of robbing people of their lives, yet incorporeal. To the south was the Vermilion Bird position of the fire attribute, filled with burning chi. Zhuge Fan set the 5th grade array, Black Flame Array. The fires within it were demonic flames that corroded bones. When it entered one's body, it would be hard to remove, and it wouldn't stop gnawing until the target was burned to ashes. To the north was the Black Tortoise position of the water attribute, a place filled with piercing chills. Zhuge Fan set up the 5th grade array, Ice Shadows Array. Howling winds blew within the array's territory, forming endless illusions. Anyone who entered it would lose their way easily and freeze to death under the bone-piercing coldness that seeped into the victim's body. Zhuo Fan didn't tell anyone about the 4 new arrays. But since today was the day of his departure, he had to give the array's method of control to those he trusted. Chapter 52, Departure. Chapter 52, Departure. Young miss, come with me. Zhuo Fan beckoned Luo Yunchang. She was unclear as to the reason, but she followed nonetheless. She was filled with glee as she saw so many things brought from the imperial family over the past few days, especially with 2 elders standing watch. Luo clan was becoming stronger day by day. She was so moved that she was lost for words. It got so far that she even let Zhuo Fan's disappearance for these past 3 months slide. Steward Zhuo, is there something? Luo Yunchang smiled as they entered a small room. Zhuo Fan closed the windows and doors without replying. Her thoughts started going in a particular direction and her face flushed. Zhuo Fan, what are you trying to do? Luo Yunchang was bashful, taking a deep breath. Zhuo Fan began, I'm leaving. What? Luo Yunchang stood there in shock. She had a face of complete disbelief, wondering if she had heard him wrongly. Only when Zhuo Fan repeated was she certain why. Luo clan is growing and is already the number 1 clan in Windgaze City. Why do you want to leave? For Luo clan's safety. Zhuo Fan's tone was grave. Luo clan is safe, for now. And there's no other clan around to mess with it. But remember what we had to do in exchange for all this. We accepted the imperial family's vague secret pearl order and offended the 7 noble houses Hell Valley. As for Veiled Dragon Pavilion, if we do not rise to the level of the 7 houses, they will change their stance with us. Then we need you even more. What will we do without you? Luo Yunchang teared up. Her heart was unwilling to let him go. In a blink, a glittering tear fell, wiping her tears away with a gentle touch. Zhuo Fan said, Fatty was right about one thing, a clan's foundation is strength. I am leaving now to bring back experts for the Luo clan, to protect our future. This is the control method of the 4 arrays around Blackwind Mountain. Only you must use it. If I'm not back in time, you can activate the arrays to deal with any trouble that arises. These are 4 5th grade arrays, plus the Wraith array in the Misty Forest. It should defend you for a good while. Zhuo Fan gave a jade slip to Luo Yunchang, who accepted it in tears. She asked softly, how long will you be gone? Sighing, Zhuo Fan shook his head, I don't know. But I'll be back as soon as I can. He wasn't leaving just to recruit experts, but also to search for the Heavenly Emperor's remnant Long Ju talked about, Lightning Canyon. At any given time, raising one's power was the most basic way to guarantee one's safety. All right, go now. Send Captain Pang and Yunhai in. Nodding, Luo Yunchang left but stopped to kiss Zhuo Fan. He froze for a moment and watched her leave with a deep look. Luo Yunchang blushed but didn't turn around as she mumbled, come back soon. When the words came, she was already gone. Not a moment later, Captain Pang brought Luo Yunhai over. Even they were shocked that Zhuo Fan was leaving. Silly kid, you're the only man of the Luo clan. Your sister will have to rely on you in the future. You must act like a true clan head who bears the Luo clan's responsibilities. Zhuo Fan patted Yunhai's shoulder. Luo Yunhai nodded while sobbing. Turning to Captain Pang, Zhuo Fan's hand flashed and revealed a jade slip. But when Captain Pang was about to take it, Zhuo Fan clenched his fist. Captain Pang looked at him in doubt. Zhuo Fan stared hard at him. Pang Yu, do you remember what Long Kuei said? She is right, with your talent, you'll only be a chi condensation cultivator at best. Captain Pang's face darkened, his hand shivered and withdrew a bit, but Zhuo Fan's tone turned grave. Nothing is set in stone. I have on me a way to change your body anew, to gain incredible power. But the terror you will experience would be worse than death and the pain unimaginable. Are you willing? Captain Pang was stunned, then he was overjoyed. Truly? Nodding, Zhuo Fan raised the jade slip. This is a mid-profound ranked demonic method, Wraith art. It is unlike other cultivation methods. It is a cultivation method for the body, ignoring one's talent for cultivation or his constitution. Just that cultivating it will make your life a living hell. It's no different from being boiled alive. And once you start, you can never stop or your soul will perish. Captain Pang licked his dry lips, yet he wasn't afraid, his eyes only held excitement. No worries. As long as I can become strong, no torment shall best old Pang. Captain Pang snatched the jade slip as he shouted. Zhuofan reminded him, the horrors you will experience from cultivating it aren't something you can fathom. Maybe you will be under such a pain that your mind will collapse and die in the end. This is a mid-profound ranked cultivation method, matching a high-profound ranked cultivation method, but with the process being so excruciating, many great demonic cultivators never even dared to touch it. Choose wisely. Waving his hand, Captain Pang's eyes flickered. Brother Zhuo, old Pang's only torment in this life was to see clan head die before me and unable to stop it. Now, my greatest wish is to protect young miss and young master. Captain Pang looked gratefully. Brother Zhuo, thank you for giving me this chance to have no more regrets. Zhuofan's heart shivered as he nodded. His eyes held respect. The next time we see each other, I hope to see a powerful old Pang and not a corpse. Ha ha ha, no worries. I am stubborn, not one to die from just this. Captain Pang laughed and squeezed Zhuofan in a bear hug with moist eyes. Brother, come back soon. Luo clan won't be the same without you. Patting Zhuofan's shoulder, Captain Pang left with Luo Yunhai. Per Zhuofan's instructions, Lei Yuting came soon after. Miss Lei, how is the task I gave you? Zhuofan smiled. Lei Yuting blushed with a nod. Brother Zhuo, the 610-year-old children you asked me to gather are almost here. They all are high talents and await your teachings. Zhuofan eyed her then nodded. How did you know that I wanted to teach them? Lei Yuting spoke with confidence. I know you too well to believe that you helped those orphans out of the goodness of your heart. So I guessed you wanted to train them as Luo clan's guards and make me their leader. At her words, Zhuofan recalled something and sighed. Goodness. I once raised an orphan out of kindness and look where it got me. Didn't he betray me in the end? Zhuofan's eyes flashed coldly at that point, scaring Lei Yuting. Miss Lei. Zhuofan held a jade slip. This is a mid-spirit ranked cultivation method, elusive shadow art. Cultivate it and then give it to those you trust to form the shadow core, protecting the clan in the dark. Begin with the 600 children the same way I taught you. Use the worst of them as guards, the average for the shadow core, and hand the best among them over to Captain Pang to train them in secret. Pass him my word, he'll understand. Lei Yuting took the jade slip with a blank look, then stared at Zhuofan, her heart uneasy. Why not do it yourself? I'm leaving. What? Lei Yuting asked. Why? Zhuofan was forced to retell his reasons. Lei Yuting nodded, but before she went out the door, she pecked Zhuofan's cheek. He was floored, watching her dash away in a blink. What is going on? Do all women like to peck? Next was Lei Yuntian's turn. Zhuofan explained to him his affairs and Lei Yuntian took his instructions to heart in an honest manner. Although he was the Grand Elder, he was clear Zhuofan controlled everything. Elder Lei. Zhuofan took out another jade slip. This is the profound ranked martial art I recorded after merging the 3 clans' martial arts, Thunderwind Sweeping Dragon Art. Since this is part of the Imperial family's secret pearls order, this will be the Luo clan's best martial art on the surface. As the Grand Elder, you need to be diligent in practicing it. Lei Yuntian raised an eyebrow but nodded. Zhuofan put an emphasis on the words on the surface, making it clear he had other high-ranked martial arts that the Imperial family was unaware of. His secret weapons. A day may come when the Imperial family might discover that the 8th house they raised was out of their control. But at that time, it would already be too late. Zhuofan was young, but his wisdom and shrewdness drew the old man's admiration. Rest assured, Steward Zhuo, I will be the best Grand Elder there is. Lei Yuntian laughed, reaching an understanding with Zhuofan. Even without Zhuofan's reminder, he was clear what it meant to stand close to a ruler, and that the Imperial family wasn't to be trusted. But Zhuofan gave this old man the nerve to tangle with this behemoth. Right, Steward Zhuo, what of Cai clan's father and son? Lei Yuntian frowned. It's already been 3 months since the merger of the 3 clans, but I still feel that the Cai clan is of a different thought, always acting suspiciously. The Blackwind Mountains guards have people from the Cai manor. I fear. Let them. Zhuofan waved with a smile. The Cai clan is part of the secret pearl order. If we deal with them, we'll earn the Imperial family's ire. But if they betray us first, here. Lei Yuntian's eyes flashed with a nod. You're amazing, Steward Zhuo, to plan so far ahead. Zhuofan squinted as killing intent filled his eyes. ****. On the morning of the second day, Zhuofan left Blackwind Mountain all by himself. On the mountain peak, Luo Yunchang, Lei Yuting and Lei Yuntian along with other Luo clan members watched him leave. All except Cai clan's duo, but in the forest halfway up the mountain, Cai Rong and his son watched Zhuofan's retreating figure with cold eyes. Humph, without this wretched punk, Luo clan will fall from grace. Cai Xiaoting snorted, that stinky girl, Luo Yunchang, made eyes with Zhuofan every single day, not sparing me even a glance. With Zhuofan gone, Blackwind Mountain is ours. Let's see her act haughty now. Sigh, one must give credit to Zhuofan for his rare talent. He has Veiled Dragon Pavilion on his left and Third Prince on his right, while he himself has the power to shake the three clans. All of Blackwind Mountain knows the true clan head of this merged clan is him. Cai Rong shook his head. The most unfortunate thing is that he chose to be against us. Since he is leaving, we might as well take everything back. Dad, what do we do? Cai Xiaoting asked, shaking his head. Cai Rong said, don't be hasty. With Zhuofan gone, the Luo clan is nothing. The Lei clan is our true enemy. We need to ally ourselves and become stronger than the Lei clan. Chapter 53, Allbeast Mountain Range. Chapter 53, Allbeast Mountain Range. In the shadow of a large forest, a black-robed figure stood on the precipice of a mountain. His eyes took in the view of a large city gate with 3 golden words inscribed on it, Blue Expanse City. Raising the corner of his mouth, the black-robed man left as the wind scattered 2 piles of black dust. 15 minutes later, the man arrived before the city gate's hold. Where's your pass? With a clank, 2 city guards crossed their spears before the man as they released their 6th layer chi condensation cultivation. Taking out a metal tablet with the serene character inscribed on it, the black-robed man let them see it. The guards nodded and let him pass. Enter. The black-robed man quickened his pace, but after 100 meters, he turned his head at the guards, eyeing them with disdain. Utterly useless. The man raised his head and exposed his face. It was Zhuofan. It had been a month since he left Luo clan, and this city was his first destination, Blue Expanse City. This place was Hell Valley's domain. Just how Veiled Dragon Pavilion placed its guards in the Windgaze City, so did Hell Valley in this city. To avoid anyone recognizing him, Zhuofan put on a black robe. He braved through this deadly danger because he was left with no other choice. Who told the spiritual beasts to gather on the Allbeast Mountain Range near the Blue Expanse City? This was also why the security was so tight in this city. Be it righteous or demonic cultivators, there were other external means to increase one's power besides the hard and arduous method of cultivation. Spiritual weapons, demonic treasures, spirit animals, demonic creatures, these were all external means but of significant importance. At the time of peril, it could save one's life. The late elder of Hell Valley was a good example. Condor Genfan's soul-devouring crow had the purple lightning gold eye and could push back Veiled Dragon Pavilion's 3 elders' joint attack. Long Ju's 3rd-grade spiritual weapon was another, helping him push back 2 Hell Valley's elders with just a sword. It was obvious how important these external means were to cultivators. Spiritual beasts could be turned into demonic creatures or spirit animals. Righteous cultivators tamed them into spirit animals, while demonic cultivators tamed them into demonic creatures. Zhuofan's blood infant, which was born naturally, was an exception. The Blue Expanse City was taken by Hell Valley during the founding of the Qianyu Empire. As such, any cultivator wanting to get his spirit animal or demonic creature would have to obtain Hell Valley's approval, and Hell Valley used this as a pretext to set up a checkpoint half a mile around it to confirm everyone's identities, allowing entry to only those with a pass. But how could Zhuofan expose himself and offer himself up on a chopping block? So he killed 2 righteous cultivators outside, stole their pass, and waltzed right in. Humph, Hell Valley can only intimidate some shy disciples with this. You think this is enough to deal with a bold cultivator or a profound heaven expert? Zhuofan's mouth let out snide remarks as he walked on. He came all this way to Allbeast Mountain Range looking for a rare 6th-level spiritual beast, Thunder Skylark. Entering Lightning Canyon could only be done through the purple lightning. Zhuofan was certain Long Ju's 3rd heaven purple lightning wasn't the same as the lightning from that place, or it would have reached the 6th heaven. That kind of power was a deterrence even for a radiant stage expert. So before he cleared Lightning Canyon's restrictions, he had to first find a way to guarantee his life in that place. And the thunder skylark, a creature that lived by swallowing lightning, was a perfect choice when he'd made it his demonic creature that matched the demon transformation art. He'd have no trouble getting in. Zhuofan hoped Lightning Canyon's purple lightning wasn't higher than 6th heaven, or not even the thunder skylark would survive repeated blows to its body and turn to ash. If that happens, then he'd only be waiting for his death. Zhuofan took a deep breath and picked up the pace. If not for Heavenly Emperor's remnant, he'd never dare go through such danger. Bam! As he walked, a black figure knocked into his chest. Zhuofan looked down to find a little beggar in shabby clothes. Zhuofan was enraged, but before he could curse, here came the little beggar's pleading voice, "Please, don't shout." Zhuofan frowned. Then, from his back, a group of 30 chi condensation cultivators appeared because the beggar hid in front of Zhuofan. His black cloak was wide enough to hide the beggar any sign of him. None. "What are you standing around for? Find him. If we don't find him, Master will have our heads." A steward cursed. The others only nodded as they scattered. Once they were gone, the beggar looked up with a relieved breath and patted his chest. "Scared me to death. I didn't think I'd make it." Zhuofan ignored him and walked away. Brother." The beggar was stunned for a second, then swooped in to block Zhuofan's path. He had a dark and dirty face but sported an extra big smile as he said, "Thank you for earlier. If it weren't for you." But Zhuofan kept walking. The beggar stood there blinking, then hurriedly caught up with Zhuofan. "Brother, did you come from outside the city? Can you take me outside, please? If you want to leave, do it alone. You don't need a pass to go out." Zhuofan dodged him. The little beggar's face was bitter as he bit his lip and sniffed twice as tears rolled down his cheeks. "Brother, to be honest, I stole from them. If they catch me, I'm a goner. Please, take me outside." Smiling, Zhuofan eyed him, around 15-16 years old and a 4th-layer chi condensation cultivator. "You're not weak for your age. There's no way a commoner can have such cultivation. Are you truly a beggar?" The beggar stopped crying and his eyes darted everywhere as if looking for an excuse. Zhuofan continued with a smile, "And even if you're sincere, why should I help you and offend a powerful clan? I see no reason why I need to help you." Zhuofan then shook his head and walked past him. The beggar stood frozen in his spot, not knowing what to do. He didn't think Zhuofan was pragmatic from the start. The beggar thought Zhuofan to be a kind youth since he helped him once. "Don't you want to go to the All-Beast mountain range?" The beggar shouted. Zhuofan halted his steps. "All who come here are looking to go to the All-Beast mountain range. What else is here, visiting Hell Valley's cemetery?" The beggar was stunned by his words. This kid sure has an attitude. Isn't he afraid of being killed for cursing Hell Valley? But the more Zhuofan acted as such, the weirder the beggar's eyes turned. "You'll have to wait for 3 months before going to All-Beast mountain range." Zhuofan stopped with a frown. "Why?" The beggar skipped to him with a smile. "Let me tell you, the diamond sand is about to come out on All-Beast mountain range. These past months Hell Valley sealed the whole mountain range for this precise reason." Diamond sand? Zhuofan was secretly overjoyed. The diamond sand was known as the blood of the earth, rare and difficult to obtain. It was used for refining 5th-grade spiritual weapons. But what made it even more valuable was that it was a flowing spirit metal, a perfect match for his blood infant. His blood infant was close to breaking through to bone tempering stage and he needed to refine its body. At that time, blood infant could switch between being corporeal and elusive, killing people without leaving tracks. Refining it with 100 spirit metals would turn it as hard as a demonic treasure and it would become difficult to cause any harm to it. He could also achieve a similar result by refining blood infant with diamond sand. If he was able to do it, then he wouldn't have to worry about obtaining 100 spirit metals. And with a body refined from diamond sand, facing a profound heaven expert would be a cinch. Thinking of this, Zhuofan's eyes flashed with excitement. The beggar saw through Zhuofan and coughed as he raised his head with pride. "Let's make a deal. If you take me outside the city, I will take you to All-Beast mountain range. And when the diamond sand erupts, we can take advantage of their carelessness and steal a bit." Zhuofan secretly snickered. There was no way Hell Valley didn't prepare for this. But the fact that he had a guide to enter All-Beast mountain range without them knowing was a nice bonus deal. The beggar raised his hand and winked. Zhuofan shook his head and slapped the beggar's hand. "Ha ha ha, awesome. I finally found someone to take me out of this damnable place. The beggar laughed while jumping around. Brother, what's your name? Zhuofan. Zhuofan was blunt because he knew even though Hell Valley was aware of the Luo clan, his title as a steward wasn't well known. And the only one who knows that he killed 2 of their elders was Yang Ming. But would anyone believe him even if he said it? Zhuofan was confident that Yang Ming would let this matter fester inside him. If anyone knew that Elder Jian died at the hands of a qi condensation punk, yet he survived, his future would be bleak, if not cut short. Moreover, even if he did speak up, Hell Valley would never announce it. Could they afford to lose any more reputation? The beggar laughed. Brother Zhuo, call me Xiao Ning. Fine. Zhuofan nodded, not carrying much because he knew it was fake. The beggar pouted, looking at him with a deep look full of curiosity. Zhuofan gave him a different impression from all those he had seen before, simply mysterious. Chapter 54, He's with me. Chapter 54, He's with me. Ninga. Just when the little beggar was about to take Zhuofan to All Beast Mountain Range, a yell echoed in their ears. Little beggar shivered, turning his head shyly with slow footsteps. What appeared before the two was an elegant young master in white with tied hair. He was in front of 20 qi condensation experts donning the same clothes as the ones from the previous group. The young master ignored Zhuofan and glared at the beggar with rage. You've caused enough trouble. It's time you return. Biting his lip, the beggar's eyes looked uncertain, but soon he came to a decision and stared back with a firm gaze. He dodged behind Zhuofan with a yell, Brother Zhuo, save me. The young master finally picked up on Zhuofan's presence, merely glancing his phoenix eyes his way. This concerns our Shui clan. If Sir does not want any trouble, I suggest you leave. Shui clan? Zhuofan quirked an eyebrow and stared long at the beggar. I didn't think this buddy had offended the Shui clan. Shui clan was the #1 common clan in Blue Expanse City. It had a profound heaven expert as overseer and could be considered a second-rate clan on the continent, but as Blue Expanse City was under Hell Valley's control, Shui clan was nothing more than its vassal. Zhuofan saw the beggar pleading with his eyes and smiled as he drew the beggar closer. The young master squinted and paled. The beggar was also surprised, and a faint red tint made itself notice on his dirty cheeks. Kid, what do you think you're doing? The young master bellowed. Zhuofan snickered. From now on, he's under me. If you want him, you'll have to pass through me first. Absurd. Did you come to Blue Expanse City without even knowing of our Shui clan? Is our clan someone you can offend? Ha ha ha, Zhuofan laughed and shook his head. Of course I know. Shui clan is Hell Valley's #1 dog in Blue Expanse City. You're telling me to ignore all those rare and amazing spiritual beasts on All Beast Mountain Range for a lame dog? The young master was about to explode from anger. The beggar was also angry and pushed Zhuofan. Don't talk of Shui clan like that. Zhuofan was stunned. I am venting your anger, yet you still blame me? Men, seize them. As Zhuofan was lost for words, the young master bellowed orders. The men behind him swarmed the two. The beggar woke up to who the enemy was and hid behind Zhuofan, sneering. Zhuofan picked up on the fact that these guards were mostly 5th-layer qi condensation cultivators, with only 2 in the 6th layer, a bunch of fishes looking for death. Zhuofan attacked with disdain. His hand flashed red and struck with blood palm. It hit a guard's chest, and the victim felt all his blood vessels burst and his organs expand to the point of bursting. He spat blood before collapsing. Another palm flew and the next guard fell. This pattern went on and on. The group of 20 guards fell one by one under Zhuofan's onslaught. The young master had long been standing there in shock. Even with his 8th-layer qi condensation cultivation, he would be unable to deal with 20 men like Zhuofan did. It was clear that Zhuofan was only in the 5th layer, yet his simple palm dealt each guard a serious wound. What escaped his eyes, though, was that Zhuofan's blood palm bypassed a person's flesh and struck at the blood vessels. It was the same as ignoring the body's defense and attacking the vulnerable organs within, so of course, it was far deadlier than it looked. In but a few breaths, all guards were on the ground, knocked out. The young master witnessed it all with a solemn expression. The beggar's eyes also bulged in wonder. So you do know a thing or two, kid. No wonder you're so smug. The young master gnashed his teeth and jumped, shattering the stones beneath his feet. Then let me, Shui gang, coerce Sir with my high martial art. Shui gang. Zhuofan frowned. Are you Shui clan's young master? I heard your dad pampers you and you are to be the clan's successor. So, Are you afraid perchance? Shuegang shouted. Zhuofan shook his head. No, I just don't like annoyances. If I offend you here, my days in Blue Expanse City will be harder. It's best to shut all these people up for good and bring peace to my ears. Zhuofan's eyes flashed with killing intent and shot forward. Such pressure from him squeezed at Shuegang's heart. He never dreamed Zhuofan would dare to kill him. The naked killing intent made his yuan qi slow down. Even if he was 3 layers higher than Zhuofan, he, who was praised to high heaven for his talent in cultivation, couldn't foresee the world housing such a ruthless youth. A mere 5th layer qi condensation cultivator was able to overwhelm an expert 3 layers higher. He watched in abject fear as the palm neared his chest and was moments away from rupturing his heart. But in this moment of impending crisis, he bit his tongue to wake up. The pain freed him from the killing intent's horrifying grip. With no time to lose, he punched. Blue lights shot like a tornado at Zhuofan. High mortal ranked martial art, howling fists. Zhuofan snorted in disdain and made a hand sign so that a red light flew right into Shuegang's body. Before the howling fist even touched Zhuofan, it broke apart and Shuegang's body froze on the spot in panic. At this moment Zhuofan towered over him. Seeing Zhuofan's devious grin, Shuegang felt like he was looking at a demon and his heart seized up for a few seconds. Bam! Zhuofan's palm landed on his chest and Shuegang spat blood as he flew into the air. His organs felt like they were burning and his blood vessels began to rupture, but the pain had yet to register when the demon approached. Shuegang was so scared he was having a mental breakdown. This was Zhuofan. He didn't strike with another palm and instead, Zhuofan grabbed Shuegang's neck with a sneer. Young Master Shui, worry not. After you die, your servants will follow in your footsteps, down to the last one. This should keep the Shui clan from chasing me all over for at least 3 months. Let's make this case cold. Zhuofan tightened the chokehold and Shuegang felt his throat almost breaking. He could even hear his bones creak. He was on the brink of death. Besides agony, nothing else was felt. Not for the life of him could he understand what he did wrong. Wasn't he only going to bring Ninga back? Why did he meet a Reaper instead? A ruthless killer. I forgot to read my future before heading out. If his neck wasn't being crushed by Zhuofan, he'd be wailing and bawling. Damn it, what rotten luck. Stop. Just when Zhuofan wanted to apply the last bit of force and send the young master to paradise, the beggar yelled. Zhuofan eyed him suspiciously. What are you doing? Aren't they your enemies? The beggar was filled with worry for Shuegang's life that even tears formed in his eyes. In fact, he wanted to stop Zhuofan long ago, but Zhuofan was just too fast. He dealt with the guards in one moment, and in the next, he was at Shuegang's throat. Even if they are, I don't want to kill them. The beggar cried. Zhuofan frowned. Why didn't you say so? But it's too late now. They are no longer just your enemies, they are mine too. The only ending for my enemies is death. Zhuofan's hand tightened and Shuegang's eyes bulged out. He wasn't far off from dying. If you don't release him, I won't guide you. The beggar yelled in tears. Zhuofan frowned. This was his first time seeing a person shed tears for their enemies. He let go and Shuegang dropped on the ground. Zhuofan made a sign and Blood Infant returned as he shrugged. Since you aren't scared, why would I be over some future inconvenience? He wiped the tears off the beggar's little face and walked away while holding the beggar close. Show the way, then I will take you outside the city, far from Shui clan. Why you baddie? The little beggar stammered. Zhuofan sneered. Correct, I'm a bad man. But in this world, they are the only ones who can survive. The good guys have already left for hell. The beggar wiped his tears and looked at Zhuofan, unafraid. He had seen his fair share of bad people, but none rose to Zhuofan's level. Yet he never felt any hatred for Zhuofan as he did for others. Instead, he felt at ease. This feeling he didn't express, but it felt nice anyway. An hour later, a black figure appeared standing in Zhuofan's previous position. The old man's beard shivered from rage at the sight of the guards on the ground. He noticed Shuegang twitching on the ground, helped him up, and asked nervously, Ganger, what's wrong? Who did this to you? Shuegang gasped with a pale face, yet not one word was uttered. The old man looked him over and found that only Shuegang's insides were wounded, while below him was a puddle of water. He gave Shuegang a pill, then let out a long breath, but Shuegang's injury astonished him. His wound wasn't heavy, only needing a month to heal. But his mind, however, had received a heavy shock. He was frightened so badly he peed himself. Ganger is a bold youth. Only a dreadful expert could have scared him to such a state in such a short time. The old man was bewildered as he pondered for a long time. In the end, he shook his head and left with Shwegang. No matter who it was, any who dared offend Shwe clan in Blue Expanse City would have another thing coming. Chapter 55, Peak Bone Tempering Stage. Chapter 55, Peak Bone Tempering Stage. That's the path up the mountain. The beggar and Zhuo Fan poked their heads through a bush close to a narrow mountain path. Zhuo Fan looked ahead and frowned, seeing 30 bone-tempering guards with his strength and savage moon, along with Blood Infant's help. It wasn't hard to charge through. But to do it without anyone noticing was the problem. Any noise here would attract the elder from Hell Valley stationed within. And since Shwe clan's profound heaven expert was after him, he'd have a hard time coming out alive. After careful deliberation, Zhuo Fan shook his head. He'd have to rely on the little beggar if he wanted to go within the mountain's range. Xiao Ning, where's the secret tunnel? Zhuo Fan looked at the little beggar. The latter was still feeling afraid of what he had witnessed some time ago. He wasn't crying but still sniffed. "See, come with me," said the little beggar while sniffing hard. Then he and Zhuo Fan vanished from the bushes. Zhuo Fan felt helpless. Why is this kid more of a coward than a mouse? Ever since he saw what I did, he keeps crying from fear, even now. They were the enemies chasing you down, not your family. So why are you crying so hard? Zhuo Fan secretly cursed but was resigned to his fate. Who told him to agree to this little beggar's deal? He imagined that after he followed the beggar to the mountain, he'd be facing some ferocious spiritual beasts. While the beggar kept crying at the side sighing, Zhuo Fan traveled with the beggar through a dark forest. After a long time, they found a narrow tunnel next to a hidden stream. This is it. The beggar forced himself to stop sobbing, but his body still shivered. When I was little, I used to play with my dad and brothers in these wood. Zhuo Fan lifted an eyebrow as he inspected the cave and the surroundings. It was such a remote place that only a native would know of. He guessed that the little beggar must have stumbled upon this cave when he was playing with his brothers, or the Hell Valley would have sealed it by now if they knew of it. All right, Xiao Ning. Go in first, I'll be right behind you. Zhuo Fan shouted as he pushed the little beggar in. He didn't think this place held a trap, but his years and years of experience still showed his cautious nature. The little beggar was aware of the meaning and rolled his eyes in anger, and stooped to go in. Suddenly, a loud shout was heard. "Ninga, stop." Whoosh. With a sound of the wind, a large figure blocked the two's path. The man looked like he was in his 40s and wore luxurious clothing over his tall and sturdy body. His pair of large eyes flashed with the explosive power of an expert peak bone tempering expert. Zhuo Fan frowned and his hands tightened. "Are you the clan head of the Shwe clan, Shwe Wanlong?" "Good eyes." Shwe Wanlong praised. "Were you the one who harmed my eldest son, Shwe Gang?" "Indeed," Zhuo Fan smiled. "He wanted to take one of my people. Sparing him was already kind enough." "What, yours?" Shwe Wanlong was shocked and turned to the little beggar. The little beggar blushed as he hid behind Zhuo Fan. Shwe Wanlong's expression turned weird. "Dad." Just then, a yell was heard. A youth in white landed next to Shwe Wanlong. "Ha ha ha, I knew Ninga would be hiding here. Dad, let me help you take him back." The youth looked thrilled. He disregarded Zhuo Fan and flew to the little beggar. "Bastard, this kid is way too cocky, treating me like air." Zhuo Fan squinted and secretly cursed. When the youth was close to him, he struck with a red palm. The youth felt his energy turn sluggish and his blood vessels rupture. In this moment of deadly crisis, Zhuo Fan struck like lightning and grabbed his neck. "What are you doing?" Shwe Wanlong roared. He didn't think his son would be caught so easily. To be honest, he saw Zhuo Fan as a fifth-layer qi condensation cultivator and was still skeptical of how he hurt his eldest son and guards, but now he knew compared to the kids he raised in his clan with all his heart, Zhuo Fan was akin to a savage beast bathed in blood. He was weaker, but his timing was perfect and his methods vicious. Before Zhuo Fan, his two sons were nothing more than greenhouse flowers. With a snicker, Zhuo Fan raised the youth up high, a fifth-layer qi condensation cultivator. "He must be your second son, Shwe Lin, right? Release him now, or you won't make it out alive." Shwe Wanlong roared in anger, sneering. Zhuo Fan shook his head. "If I do as you say, you'd make sure I'm dead even more. Clan head Shwe, no matter what grievances Xiao Ning has with you, he is my person." I only hope you will give up at this point. Don't. Zhuo Fan's hand squeezed and Xue Lin gasped with his tongue out, and you will have your son as a corpse. No. The little beggar shouted before Xue Wanlong could reply, grabbing Zhuo Fan's arm and begging with his eyes. Zhuo Fan was stunned. This beggar must have a screw loose. Why does he want to leave his enemies alive? Xue Wanlong watched them with a complicated gaze. But soon came to a decision and calmed down. This, in turn, startled Zhuo Fan. Kid, what is your name? Xue Wanlong asked. Zhuo Fan smiled. I am alone and am not afraid of your revenge. Nor am I afraid of telling you my name. It's Zhuo Fan. All right, Zhuo Fan. You want to protect him no matter what. Xue Wanlong pointed at the little beggar with a solemn look. Zhuo Fan snorted. He is mine, so of course I will. Good, then let's make a bet. You let my son go and take 10 hits from me. If you win, I will no longer care about him. What do you say? Squinting, Zhuo Fan considered Xue Wanlong's bet, then showed his manic grin as he threw Xue Lin away. Aren't you afraid I will break my word? Xue Wanlong's eyes flashed. Zhuo Fan sneered, if I want to kill him, you won't be able to stop me. Big words. Xue Wanlong was angry again. Here are my 10 moves. He charged with his peak bone tempering power on display. But Zhuo Fan didn't seem to feel any discomfort. Standing there calmly, Xue Wanlong's brow trembled as he secretly praised Zhuo Fan, but before he reached Zhuo Fan, the latter also charged. This puzzled him greatly. Even if this kid is a seasoned fighter, he can't fend off a bone-tempering expert. So why? He saw Zhuo Fan's hand shine and Savage Moon appear basked in a silver glow. Zhuo Fan sped up and was before Xue Wanlong in an instant, ready to attack third-grade demonic treasure. Xue Wanlong was shocked and turned to the side in an attempt to dodge, but a red light darted out from Zhuo Fan, aimed at Xue Wanlong. Got you. Zhuo Fan grinned with killing intent, but just as Blood Infant was about to enter Xue Wanlong, it was repelled. As it bounced off, Zhuo Fan felt his blood stirring from his connection with it. His hand moved and he slashed with Savage Moon. The silver light trailed past Xue Wanlong's face. When both of them stopped, Zhuo Fan was standing in Xue Wanlong's original place with a solemn look. Just now he had planned to take Xue Wanlong's life in one hit by using Blood Infant and Savage Moon, but unexpectedly, Blood Infant bounced off and the recoil veered his attack. He turned back to see Xue Wanlong's chest flash, and shouted, second-grade defensive demonic treasure? His heart grew heavy having found out the reason against such a defensive demonic treasure. His chi condensation Blood Infant was useless. He could only rely on Savage Moon in this battle. As Zhuo Fan felt gloomy about the upcoming fight, Xue Wanlong's jaw dropped in shock. He didn't foresee that a 5th-layer chi condensation kid would have such terrifying power. If he was a moment too late, his head would have been sent flying right now. Recalling his bet with Zhuo Fan, he felt a cold shiver run down his spine. Blast it, as the matter stands, it'll be good if I can at least keep my head after 10 move. He then looked at the chain mail on his chest and sighed. Thanks to his father warning him that the man who took Ninga might have been an expert, he wore this armor. He was unclear as to what was Blood Infant's use, but he knew death wouldn't be far away once it got into his body. Then he turned to Zhuo Fan, who was looking at him as if to devour him, and broke out in cold sweat. This was his first time meeting such a dreadful opponent. Even more so when this opponent was in the 5th layer of chi condensation. Damn it. Is this kid a monster? Gnashing his teeth, Xue Wanlong braced himself for what's to come. Chapter 56, Mystifying Phantom Step. Chapter 56, Mystifying Phantom Step. Zhuo Fan stared at Xue Wanlong, thinking hard for a way to finish his enemy. Xue Wanlong was the same, yet his eyes seemed lost. He saw no hesitation from Zhuo Fan, but a naked taunt instead. This was not how a chi condensation cultivator was supposed to stare at a bone-tempering expert. It was more akin to a savage beast staring down its prey, and he didn't like it one bit. Being stared down by someone weaker than me feels like I've lost all respect. He decided to rush for an attack and strike ore in this kid, but Zhuo Fan got ahead of him and ran for him. Second move. Zhuo Fan's sudden action startled him, but soon recalled who he was. Even if it was against a punk, he wasn't about to make a fool of himself. Moreover, only Savage Moon was a threat to him. If he paid attention to it, he'd be fine. It would be no problem lasting 10 moves. If his thoughts were known to others, it would leave them speechless. In a fight between peak bone tempering expert and a chi condensation kid, The former, who thought this was but a cat and mouse game, was now thinking how to survive 10 moves. Who the hell was strong and who was weak then? And more importantly, who in the hell told him to make a 10 moves bet in the first place? But he had no time to mind such trifles, as Zhuo Fan had turned into a silver light. Seeing the silver light approach him, Xue Wanlong exploded with power and retreated. It could be said that he was being wary of Savage Moon, but he was even more afraid that he would end up making an embarrassing scene. Xue Lin, who was thrown down, coughed twice, then stared in shock. "Dad, you were the one who brought up the 10 moves bet, not the other way around." Xue Wanlong's face froze, itching to run over and kick his son's rear real good. "Can you be even more oblivious? This kid's toy is sharp and you want me to play around with death?" Xue Lin was ignorant of his dad's struggle and kept cheering. But Xue Wanlong's face was getting more and more ashen. Zhuo Fan didn't even get to touch Xue Wanlong's clothes in the first 5 moves. But he saw through Xue Wanlong's intention and became bold with a manic grin. Zhuo Fan declared, "6th move." He sped up for another attack while Xue Wanlong was prepared to dodge, but this time, Zhuo Fan stepped lightly and turned into 3 figures, surrounding Xue Wanlong. 3 silver lights approached Xue Wanlong in a threatening manner from different directions. Xue Wanlong was startled. But as a peak bone tempering expert, he didn't lose his calm. He kicked the ground and made it explode. The force helped him dodge backwards, almost enough to escape the encirclement, but Zhuo Fan sneered and stepped again. Whoosh! The images dissipated. However, Zhuo Fan appeared from behind Xue Wanlong and cut past his ear. Low spirit ranked martial art, mystifying phantom step. The two stopped again, with Zhuo Fan standing 3 meters away from his opponent with a smile. Xue Wanlong stood there watching a strand of black hair floating before him. Loss. He couldn't believe it. What was meant to be a test for the kid ended with his complete loss in the 6th move. He didn't sense Zhuo Fan behind him, but since Zhuo Fan could cut his hair just as well, it could have been his head. In other words, Zhuo Fan was going easy on him. Xue Wanlong swallowed dryly. He was going all out from the 2nd move. But even so, impossible. The beggar and Xue Lin yelled at the same time. They found it hard to accept that such a powerful expert lost to their peer. "Dad, you must have gone easy on purpose, right?" Xue Lin ran next to Xue Wanlong with expectation in his eyes. But Xue Wanlong didn't comment. Zhuo Fan watched them coldly. Of course, clan head Xue went easy. His first move was just a test, without killing intent. "If Dad hadn't gone easy, you'd be dead." Xue Lin was grasping for straws here when he stuck out his chin in derision. But Zhuo Fan just sneered, "Terribly sorry, your dad didn't go all out. But if he had, his head would have been lying on the ground by now." Zhuo Fan wasn't saying to scare people. Although his first attempt with Blood Infant failed, it only meant that he lost the initiative completely. And that didn't equal losing his chance to kill Xue Wanlong. A bone-tempering expert lacked speed in comparison to a profound heaven expert. With Savage Moon's assist, Zhuo Fan's speed matched a bone-tempering expert. So, he still had a chance with his speed. What was left then was to deliver a killing blow at the perfect timing. If Zhuo Fan was in the 4th layer of Qi condensation, it would have been impossible. But in the 5th layer, he could use spirit-ranked martial arts, and the first one he trained was mystifying phantom step. This was not your average martial art, but one coming from 9 Serenity's secret records, a rare martial art that made use of an array's advantage. The phantom part wasn't important, but it was crucial to bait the opponent. The true killing move came from the mystified path he drew his opponent in. With this martial art, Zhuo Fan could teleport anywhere within a short range during their fight. The phantoms took all of Xue Wanlong's attention and made him ignore the sudden appearance of Zhuo Fan behind him. If Zhuo Fan had sensed any killing intent in their fight, he would have chopped Xue Wanlong's head off. Xue Wanlong was more than clear on this and accepted his defeat. Zhuo Fan, with a sigh, Xue Wanlong stared at him solemnly. "You're the most reliable youth I've ever seen. I will leave Ninga with you. Don't fail him." Zhuo Fan was puzzled. What does he mean by that? But Xue Wanlong didn't explain and hugged the little beggar. "Ninga, go and don't return. Follow your dreams, Dad." The little beggar cried rivers. Zhuo Fan watched in shock. "Dad? When did Xue Wanlong have a 3rd son?" But soon, he yelled, "Hold on, your 3rd young miss, Xuaningxiang." Rolling his eyes, Xue Wanlong patted Zhuo Fan's shoulder. "Kid, I thought you were smart, but but you found this out only now. Anyway, you said it yourself that she is yours, so I am leaving her in your care. If I find out that you mistreated my daughter in any way, I will wring your life from your body. No way. What is going on here? Zhuofan was slack-jawed. All this time he'd been fighting the little beggar's father and was so close to ending her entire family. It's obvious now why she always glared at me with such hatred. Sighing, Xue Wanlong took one last look at his tearing daughter and left with Xuelin. After going some distance, Xuelin said, "Dad, if we don't get Ninga back, how do we explain it to Hell Valley?" "Quiet, I have a way. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Xuening Xiang." Zhuofan stepped before the little beggar and tossed her cap. Jet black silky hair cascaded. The little beggar, who was still lost in tears as she watched her father leave, yelped when this happened and hurriedly held her head. She faced him with a blushed face but didn't meet his eyes. "Miss Ning, what's your game? Here I was fighting with your father thinking of helping you vent your anger, but, in fact, it was for nothing." Xuening Xiang took 2 steps back, muttering as she looked at his angry face, "Brother Zhue, don't be angry. I only want to leave the city while you want to go to All Beast Mountain Range. We'll each get what we want." Zhuofan was startled. Then again, she's right. As long as I get what I want, who cares if they're a family of archenemies? Each gets what he wants. This Missy speaks reason. Will I, demonic emperor, get angry because she lied to me? Anyway, this has nothing to do with me. But then Zhuofan was startled once again. Since when have I been so emotional? With a frown, Zhuofan recalled everything that happened since his rebirth. He then realized that being in contact with the Luo clan over the past months made him show consideration to the people around him, even without his knowledge. This wasn't how a demonic cultivator acted at all. Damn it, I don't need these useless feelings. I have to change. I have to. Zhuofan reminded himself again and again. His face then turned serene, void of any emotion. "Xuening Xiang, let's go." Zhuofan pointed at the cave and said in a cold tone, "Once I'm done with All Beast Mountain Range, I will take you out. At that time, our deal is done." Xuening Xiang looked long at him then nodded. Zhuofan's behavior changed way too fast, as if he was a different person to begin with. Zhuofan wasn't a good man in her mind, but now he became neither good nor bad, but cold and unfeeling. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Chapter 57, Golden Spring Pool. Chapter 57, Golden Spring Pool. All Beast Mountain Range, deep in the forest. Indiana, a remote thicket, a rabbit was chewing on tender juicy grass. Suddenly, the rabbit straightened its ears and bolted. A moment later, a black hand extended out from the ground, followed by the slow crawl of the little beggar. But as she was crawling, she was flung out with a loud sound, as if a palm had slapped her. "Get out already." Zhuofan scowled and came out after the beggar flew. He was just as filthy as the beggar and looked as if he had crawled through a cramped coal mine. The tunnel was winding and almost half a mile long. It was also damp and smelled of rot. He couldn't understand for the life of him what was so great about playing in this place as kids. Xuening Xiang got on her feet, rubbed her rear and then glared at him. "You're the worst. I show you the way and this is my thanks. Yes, I'm a scoundrel." Zhuofan didn't argue with her and had his eyes peeled, scanning the surrounding as he heard the seldom roar of spiritual beasts. He now knew that this was indeed All Beast Mountain Range. Looking at his filthy appearance, he shook his head and turned to Xuening Xiang. "Hey, is there any river nearby?" Rolling her eyes, Xuening Xiang began walking. "Follow me." Zhuofan smiled and followed her. 15 minutes later, the sound of water reached their ears. He perked up and sped. His eyes were soon rewarded with the sight of a wide river flowing with clear water and small fishes. With a shout, Zhuofan leapt in despite a female's presence. His clothes then flew out. Xuening Xiang whipped her body around in shame and snapped, "You rogue, what are you doing? What do you think, bathing?" Zhuofan snorted as he bathed with no regard to her presence. "I'll get out after I finish." "Do what you want. If you wish, we can bathe together, I don't mind." "Damn you, who wants to bathe with you?" Xuening Xiang didn't turn around, only mumbled with irritation, "Shameless." Zhuofan heard her loud and clear though. If demonic cultivators cared about reputation, what are righteous cultivators then? A quarter of an hour later, Zhuo Fan came out of the river and put on a new robe from his ring. He patted Xueningsiang's shoulder. Let's go, where is the diamond sand going to appear? Xueningsiang was a bit nervous seeing Zhuo Fan wanted to leave. She stood there in hesitation and was too embarrassed to speak. Zhuo Fan raised an eyebrow. What? Show the way. Didn't we have a deal? But, Xueningsiang muttered shyly, I haven't washed yet. Zhuo Fan's eyebrow twitched and he exposed an enigmatic smile. I told you to wash but you refuse. Since you haven't, then that's that. I won't avoid you either way. But. Xueningsiang was even more embarrassed now. She put on a disguise to run away from home. But she was a girl, and girls loved beauty, so how could she allow herself to stay dirty? Zhuo Fan knew this too, but he was just teasing the hell out of her. Who told her to deceive me? Xueningsiang was swaying from one foot to the other but didn't speak. But when she caught Zhuo Fan's faint smile, she knew he was teasing her. Pissed, she threw her hat in his face and walked to the river, but after a few steps, she turned to warn Zhuo Fan, why you better not peek. Zhuo Fan mocked as he left, I'm not interested in unripe fruit. Unripe? Xueningsiang was startled, then looked down at her chest and pushed it out unconvinced. Humph, where am I unripe? But Zhuo Fan had already disappeared among the trees. Xueningsiang pouted and returned to the river with a gloomy heart. Half an hour later, Zhuo Fan was laying carefree on a bush, holding a straw in his mouth and contemplating his next course of action. The bushes around him moved at that moment and Zhuo Fan looked over with a smile. Oh, you're finally done, little miss, can we go now? Why yeah. With a shy reply, the bushes were pushed aside. A white-clothed delicate girl slowly walked out. She wasn't gorgeous, but she had a lively air about her. She was like a bouquet of fresh and pure flowers. Even Zhuo Fan was startled by her image. He didn't think that the dirty little beggar from before would transform into a gentle swan. Xueningsiang reddened a bit from his constant staring. She coughed and Zhuo Fan smiled embarrassingly. Lady Xue, please lead the way. Changing his mannerism after encountering a belle, Zhuo Fan started to despise himself a bit. Since when have I become so shameless? Yet the end result was that he found it refreshing walking side by side with a belle. 2 hours later, Xueningsiang brought him to a hilltop. Zhuo Fan was puzzled. Since the diamond sand is coming out, there should be plenty of people around. Why is it deserted? Xueningsiang shook her head and rolled her eyes. Brother Zhuo, I thought you were smart. How come you are so stupid all of a sudden? Zhuo Fan watched her skeptically. If we go in right now, we will be caught. That is why I led you here. Xueningsiang pulled Zhuo Fan's hand and went higher up the hill and pointed. That is the place where the diamond sand will erupt. Looking over, Zhuo Fan saw many figures, 50 in number, defending a pond. The pond seemed to be connected to a hot spring as it was bubbling in the center. On a stone rising from the water, sat a grey-robed white-haired elder with his eyes closed. The air was warm around him, but the steam from the hot spring vanished the closer it got to him, so much so that not even his hair was wet. Such deep cultivation. Is he a profound heaven expert? Zhuo Fan frowned in panic suddenly. That elder snapped his eyes open and looked in Zhuo Fan's direction. His eyes were sharp and landed like lightning on his position. Get down. Zhuo Fan pulled Xueningsiang to lie on a rock as cold sweat ran all over his body. Such a sharp instinct. He is a profound heaven expert for sure. Correct. Xueningsiang nodded. He is Hell Valley's elder overseeing Blue Expanse City for the past dozen years. Last month he found that the Golden Spring Pool released a lot of diamond sand and has stood watch here ever since. The 50 people around him are also bone tempering expert. Zhuo Fan nodded. Before diamond sand erupted, it would cause the flowing gold tide. But the flowing gold tide would only contain trace amounts of diamond sand. But 3 months from then, the diamond sand would erupt for sure. To get all the diamond sand before others, they placed guards. But who is to say the diamond sand would erupt from here? Zhuo Fan frowned as he thought. With his power, he had no hope of stealing the diamond sand, unless... His eyes flashed and pulled Xueningsiang off the hilltop. What? You have a way? Seeing Zhuo Fan confident, Xueningsiang was startled. She was already shocked that he could beat her family, but could he also have the power to win against a profound heaven cultivator and a team of bone-tempering experts? Zhuo Fan shook his head. If you can't beat them, outwit them. Let's go. I want you to find a little pet for me. Xuening was puzzled in the golden spring pool. The elder's eyes were filled with confusion. Did I sensed wrongly? At the same time, in Blue Expanse City, Xue Wanlong took Xue Lin's dirty figure home. In the main hall of the Xue clan sat a wizen old man in the seat of honor, watching the two. Then he suddenly jumped to his feet. How was it? Did you bring Ninga? Did you deal with the culprit that harmed Ganger? Sighing, Xue Wanlong shook his head. Dad, I let them go. That kid is not bad, so I entrusted Ninga to him. As for him injuring Ganger, he did not know any better. As long as he takes care of Ninga, I do not mind it. What, that man is Ningus? The old man spouted in shock, nodding. Xue Wanlong said, that kid said Ninga was his. Ninga was also willing, so we can assume so. Fool. The old man slapped the table with a howl. Wanlong, no matter who the kid is, even if you disregard what he did to Ganger, Ninga can never ever be taken away. You know that if she leaves, our Xue clan. Even though he was angry, his eyes revealed sadness. Xue Wanlong looked at his father with firm eyes as he said, Dad, let Ninga go. I will take full responsibility. You take shit. Can you keep the young and old safe? The old man roared. Wanlong, I know you love your daughter, but you think I don't. But Xue clan. Sighing, the old man's face hardened. Where did they go? Xue Wanlong was vexed, but still spoke as he closed his eyes. All Beast Mountain range. Whoosh. In an instant, the old man vanished. Chapter 58, Mystery Guy. Chapter 58, Mystery Guy. Zhuo Fan and Xuening were searching through bushes in All Beast Mountain range. Xuening was unsettled, not knowing where he was going with this. Zhuo Fan suddenly shouted in glee and held out something dirty. Found it. Xuening blinked in curiosity at the thing. What is it? What does it do? Sweet potato. Zhuo Fan gave a vague smile and continued, the one thing that first-level spiritual beast burrowing mouse likes the most. Xuening eyes flashed and yelled, great plan, you want to use a burrowing mouse to make a tunnel and steal the diamond sand. The burrowing mouse didn't know how to fight, and even a Foundation establishment cultivator could capture it easily. But its burrowing skill was second to none. Just one of these critters could dig through a 1,000-mile-long mountain range in an hour. Zhuo Fan didn't reply and showed a faint smile. Xuening felt even more suspicious now. No one seemed to be able to unravel the insidious mind of Zhuo Fan. A moment later, Zhuo Fan took Xuening far away from the golden spring pool and made a fire in which he threw the sweet potato. Soon, a sweet aroma wafted for 100 miles. Many spiritual beasts raised their heads and began searching for the source. Zhuo Fan took Xuening to lay in ambush close by. Their eyes fixed on the fire, the bushes rustled and many spiritual beasts, big and small, approached the fire. They prodded the black lumps in the fire, wanting to find out from where the sweet smell came from. To no avail. Zhuo Fan secretly laughed and smiled at Xuening. In fact, the two took the cooked sweet potato long ago. They only left it inside enough to release its sweet smell and attract the burrowing mouse. If not, the other spiritual beasts would have taken it away and ruined their plan. More and more spiritual beasts came and searched, but found nothing. However, the soil next to the fire moved as it bulged outwards to no more than a fist in size. Zhuo Fan stood up slowly and got ready. Suddenly, the bulge of dirt broke away. A creature with a black mouth on its tiny head came out. It roamed around the fire a few times and sniffed. Now, Zhuo Fan screamed in his mind as he shot for the fire. The spiritual beasts, which gathered around the fire, were only at first and second level, ran away at the sudden noise. Only the burrowing mouse was oblivious to what was happening, but its intuition as a spiritual beast gave it a bit of insight that danger was looming. It immediately started moving its claw, wanting to burrow, but it was too late. Zhuo Fan already flashed before it and grabbed its tail. The burrowing mouse struggled for its life in panic. But there was no escape from the demonic palm of Zhuo Fan. He, buddy, you wanna run? With a manic grin, Zhuo Fan grabbed the critter's frail body and squeezed. It screeched in pain and flailed its claws. Xuening couldn't take it anymore and took the poor thing close to her chest. She patted it and threw Zhuo Fan an evil eye. How can you be so cruel? What if you hurt it? Humph, spiritual beasts don't get bruised easily. Zhuo Fan snorted. We need to hurry and tame it or we won't get another chance. But you don't need to be such a bore about it. My clan had raised some small spiritual beasts before, and even if they were wild they still listened to me. Xueningsiang comforted the poor critter with a sweet smile. Isn't that right, little one? The burrowing mouse seemed to understand and nodded, then glared at Zhuofan. Curses, buddy, you're pushing it here. Zhuofan raged inside, itching to get his hand on the prick. But it was impossible, not with Xueningsiang guarding it like a tigress. But then an idea struck him and his manic grin returned. The burrowing mouse shivered at the sight of him and hid in Xueningsiang's chest. What are you trying to do? Xueningsiang warned Zhuofan as she stepped back. His face flipped to a gentle smile as a gourd appeared on his palm. It's all right. I won't harm the little one. I only want it to swallow something. Then he took out a blood-red worm from the gourd. It was the demonic creature he had raised with great care, frigid pool bloodworm. Any creature that ingested it would have no choice but to listen to his commands, or the blood curse would claim their lives. If not for time being an issue, he wouldn't have wanted to waste a bloodworm on a first-level spiritual beast. What is that? So disgusting. Xueningsiang frowned and took another step back. The burrowing mouse also sensed the danger and hid in her chest. Zhuofan was dead serious. We have two ways we can tame the little guy fast. Either let me train it for a day, or he eats this. Xueningsiang saw Zhuofan's face and she knew if she refused, he'd use force. Helpless, Xueningsiang took the burrowing mouse out and patted its head. Little one, it's better if you eat it. Although it's a tad disgusting, it's better than landing in that guy's hands. Xueningsiang said as she walked towards Zhuofan with a sinister smile. Zhuofan inched the bloodworm close to the burrowing mouse's mouth. The critter struggled, but it was of no use. The bloodworm was about to enter its mouth at that moment. However, a whoosh was heard. Zhuofan pushed Xueningsiang away as he moved back himself. Watch out. A cold light passed between them. The freezing ray almost touched Zhuofan's fingers as it cut the wiggling bloodworm clean in half. He was aware of the killing intent the ray contained. Zhuofan turned to see a tall youth not 10 meters away. He looked to be 20 years old and had a handsome visage. His eyes flashed with coldness, like a pair of sharp blades. At the two of them the burrowing mouse shrieked a few times and ran from Xueningsiang's hands and climbed up his body to his shoulder. It has a master? Zhuofan scowled. The youth snorted at the two. You both got some nerve eyeing my spirit animal. Ah, sorry, it wasn't on purpose. Zhuofan stopped Xueningsiang's explanation with a wave and pushed her behind him. It doesn't matter if it has a master or not. We need it today. Ha ha ha, big words. The youth sneered. One insect is in the 5th layer of chi condensation, while the other in the 4th. Yet you still want to tame what is mine? Fine, guess I will have to end you. Humph, we will see about that. Sneering, Zhuofan rushed at the youth as Savage Moon flashed in his hand. 3rd grade demonic treasure. Raising an eyebrow, the youth lost the contempt he had before. This demonic treasure was a threat to his life, and in all his teachings he received, one needed to go all out regardless of the enemy. His eyes gleamed as he dashed at Zhuofan. His hand flashed and it now held a long sword. In an instant, the world seemed to freeze over. The sky and the earth seemed to vanish as flickering lights spewed from the sword. Empty net. Whoosh. Zhuofan suddenly slowed down amid his charge. Even his surroundings were sluggish while the only thing unaffected was the long sword. Profound ranked martial art, 7th layer of bone tempering stage, and 4th grade spiritual weapon. Squinting, Zhuofan started to take this seriously. This youth wasn't average. It was hard enough reaching such cultivation at his age, but he had also grasped a profound ranked martial art and used a 4th grade spiritual weapon. In the Tianyu Empire, rare were those like him even in the 7 noble houses. And exactly that was the answer. This man could be a core disciple of the 7 noble houses, perhaps even an inheritor. Today Zhuofan offended him and tomorrow trouble would come knocking. The only choice was to kill him. In an instant, Zhuofan's eyes exploded with killing intent. The youth was startled. Am I not the one holding the advantage? Why is this kid releasing such thick killing intent? Does he think he can actually kill me? The next moment, however, Zhuofan's action left him pale. Despite knowing that he was slowed down, Zhuofan only took a step and turned into 5 images of himself. Sneering, the youth grinned. Think you can act tough with such a base-level killing move? The youth's sword turned into 5 and struck each figure down. But at that moment, Zhuofan's voice came from behind him. Nice sword skill. Too bad you met me. The youth jumped in fright. When did he get behind me? In this moment of imminent danger, he stabbed backwards. The sword art's aim was perfect, targeting Zhuo Fan's chest. Zhuo Fan looked down calmly, with slight praise in his heart. Too bad it's over. Whoosh. Zhuo Fan ignored the sword going for his chest and slashed at the youth's waist. If this continued, it would end with Zhuo Fan being gravely wounded and the youth dead. A wound for a kill, worth it. Chapter 59, Sword Marquis's Abode of the Seven Noble Houses. Chapter 59, Sword Marquis's Abode of the Seven Noble Houses. Ding! Zhuo Fan slashed with full power, but a metal screech echoed and Savage Moon bounced back. He squinted as his heart was in a panic. This punk has a spiritual armor besides the spiritual weapon. But the timing didn't even let him think. The youth's sword was getting dangerously close to his chest. In this wound for a kill scenario, his opponent would come unharmed while he would be too wounded to continue fighting. Damn it, I miscalculated this time. Zhuo Fan secretly cursed and used the Savage Moon's rebound to save himself. Not for the life of him did he think this freakin' punk to be this rich. Even an elder from Hell Valley had a single demonic treasure at best. But this punk here was wielding one while wearing another. Who the hell is he? Bam! With no more time to think, Zhuo Fan's Savage Moon and the golden sword struck each other with a loud sound. Zhuo Fan flew back due to the force. The blood in his chest flowed erratically and forced him to spew blood. He hit the dirt and the Savage Moon clanked next to him in two. His brow shivered as he turned solemn. He has a 4th grade spiritual armor on him that my blood infant can't get through. The only way to hurt him was with Savage Moon. But Savage Moon is now in pieces. This was the first time since his rebirth that Zhuo Fan met such a danger to his life. The youth was in the 7th layer of bone tempering stage, had a spiritual weapon, had a spiritual armor, and even profound ranked martial art. I can't punch through his defense and I can only take a beating. But the worst part was, the youth used all his power against someone weaker. Everyone was afraid of the serious types. This will make it even harder for him to make any mistakes for me to exploit. How do I fight him? Zhuo Fan stared down the figure while his forehead ran cold with sweat. Yet who'd have known that the youth's mental state mirrored his, maybe even more terrified. The youth was known as a genius among geniuses in his clan. He learned the sword all his life and never lost. But against Zhuo Fan, who was weaker, he was one move away from dying. Even when he exerted his all, if not for the spiritual armor, he'd be dead. Dead from a man weaker than him by a stage. He just couldn't get over this. He was an exceptional genius who could defeat a peak bone tempering expert in a single move. He was the clan's successor. How could? The youth's brow was sweating bullets and gnashed his teeth at Zhuo Fan. Brother, what is your name? Zhuo Fan was startled and saw the change in the youth's eyes. Guessing he wouldn't keep on wanting to kill them, he replied, Zhuo Fan, I'll remember you. We'll finish this the next time we meet. That youth sheathed his sword, took his burrowing mouse, and was about to leave. Zhuo Fan rushed to say, wait. The youth stopped. What is it? Dare I ask, brother, are you also here for the diamond sand? The youth stared at Zhuo Fan. What if I am, what if I'm not? Zhuo Fan smiled. If not, then let's part ways. If you are, want to work together. Work together? The youth frowned and took a long look at the two. How? Not even the 3 of us are enough to steal 1 speck of diamond sand. Not long back, this youth viewed them as nothing more than insects, but his words just now showed his respect for Zhuo Fan's strength as someone equal to him. Zhuo Fan grinned inside. We can negotiate like this. Brother has a burrowing mouse, so you plan to avoid fighting them. The youth smiled, so we had the same idea. I see why you wanted this guy. But this burrowing mouse is mine. What can you bring if we team up? The correct way of using the burrowing mouse. Zhuo Fan continued with a smile. How is brother going to use it to get the diamond sand? The youth squinted, and replied with another question. How about you? Dig a tunnel, wait for the diamond sand to erupt, and we steal some. Xue Ningxiang spoke out of turn, but her response only earned the laughter of the two until her face went red. She glared. Why are you laughing? Am I wrong? The youth shook his head. Lady, they have a profound heaven expert, so how could it work? You'll be caught before you even make a move. Zhuo Fan nodded. In any case, My silly sister raised an option we definitely must avoid. What about you? Xue Ningxiang glared at Xue Fan for making fun of her, but her face became red again for some other reason. The youth spoke simply. Easy, the diamond sand is pushed by the deep earth and comes out as a spring. I will have the burrowing mouse dig a small tunnel from the main course to direct a part of the diamond sand to me. Xue Fan clapped and Xue Ningxiang praised the brilliance of it. Great plan. The youth smiled with pride, but Xue Fan shook his head. If I were you, this would also be the best plan. The youth frowned. You have a better way then? Ha ha ha, of course. Why would I work with you if I didn't? Xue Fan smiled as he continued. Your plan won't earn you even 1,000th. Since there are so many types of earth layers beneath us, the diamond sand will be stuck along the way and you will get even less. What's your idea then? The youth stared at him with a mysterious smile. Xue Fan stuck out his chin. If brother believes me, I can get all of it, leaving nothing to Hell Valley. We will later split it evenly. What do you say? How can that be? The youth watched them in shock, but Xue Fan was confident. My skill is making impossible possible. This got the youth to recall Xue Fan's close call in killing him and nodded. Fine, I believe you. How do we do it? Splendid. Xue Fan laughed. We are now partners. How should I address brother? Xie Tianyang. The youth spoke loud and clear. Xue Fan frowned. Xie, you mean you're from the 7 noble houses, Sword Marquis abode? Waving his hand, Xie Tianyang smiled vaguely. But they all figured out even if Xue Fan didn't get to finish. Xue Ningxiang watched the youth for a long time in shock. Second-rate clans like the Xue clan relied on the protection of the 7 noble houses. Just that she never got to leave Blue Expanse City, not once in her life, and the only 7 noble houses people she saw were from Hell Valley. Oh, brother Xue, what house do you come from that you're so amazing? Xue Ningxiang couldn't help but wonder as Xue Fan was so young and yet no less powerful than Xie Tianyang. In fact, Xue Fan could have struck this disciple of Sword Marquis abode dead if not for the spiritual armor. Thus, Xue Fan had to be from a special background. Xie Tianyang also turned to Xue Fan with eager eyes. He wanted to know just which house gave birth to such a monster. Xue Fan shook his head with a smile. I'm no one important, just a small steward in the Luo clan of Windgaze City. Steward? Luo clan? The two were shocked. Luo clan? Never heard of it. Ha ha ha, it's quite normal for you to not know. Luo clan is just a third-rate clan. Xue Fan smiled this time. Both of them eyed him with suspicion. They would never believe that a trifling clan could raise such an expert. Not even the imperial family and the 7 houses had many like him. Brother, if what you said is true, you are welcome to join Sword Marquis abode. Xie Tianyang's eyes shined as he patted Xue Fan's shoulder. It mattered little if Xue Fan was being honest, he was an unpolished gem nonetheless. With Xue Fan joining the Sword Marquis abode, the Luo clan would one day be a second-rate clan, maybe even a peak second-rate with the house's assistance. The Sword Marquis abode would at that time grow in power even more. For one of the 7 noble houses to personally ask for a clan to sign an agreement with them would stir all other small clans into crying if they found out. But Xue Fan only disdained this act. Knowing where Xie Tianyang was going with this, Xue Fan smiled. Hey, you're late. I already signed an alliance agreement with Veiled Dragon Pavilion, but if Sword Marquis abode wants to sign a similar agreement, I'd be happy to oblige. What? Xue Fan just dropped a bomb that shocked the other two to their cores. Alliance agreement. Veiled Dragon Pavilion? Why would Veiled Dragon Pavilion do this for a small clan? Chapter 60, 1,000-mile-long array. Chapter 60, 1,000-mile-long array. Xue Ningxiang and Xie Tianyang took long skeptical looks at Xue Fan. From Xue Fan's reaction, it could be said he spoke the truth. But this news was too outrageous, even worse than if the heaven and earth switched places. The 7 noble houses could stand shoulder to shoulder with the imperial family. If they discovered a clan with great potential, signing a vassal agreement was more appropriate, but an alliance agreement only ever happened between the 7 noble houses. Yet this gap in power between the house and the clan breached by an alliance agreement made it look like the emperor went out to a beggar and called him brother. Such an act would make them, the 7 houses and the emperor, look like charitable folks. But this was fundamentally impossible. Just how did Xue Fan do it? Xie Tianyang watched Xue Fan closely but shook his head in the end. Brother, it's fine if you don't want to say it. But do you have to lie to us so openly? Xuaningxiang rolled her eyes while whining. Brother Zhuo, we told you everything about us, while you still keep your secret. This is not proper. Zhuo Fan shook his head. The truth was taken as lies by others and he did not know how to respond. All right, Brother Zhuo, let's forget it. We'll be going our separate ways when this is over anyway, with little chance of meeting again. There's no need to know everything about each other. Then, Xie Tianyang clapped. We had better listen to Brother Zhuo's plan. Zhuo Fan nodded with a smile. He liked Xie Tianyang's attitude a lot. There was no eternal enemies and friends in the world, only benefits. They were friends now, thanks to a mutual goal, but tomorrow they might be on opposite sides. There was no need to know too much about each other, quite the contrary. It would be best to hide one's secret and protect one's identity. Only Xuaningxiang pouted. Since we were brought together by fate, why can't we be friends? Zhuo Fan and Xie Tianyang just smiled. Zhuo Fan then retrieved a piece of paper from his ring and began to write on it. 15 minutes later, a strange design adorned it. Xuaningxiang was looking puzzled, while Xie Tianyang was feeling more and more astonished with each brushwork. Xie Tianyang watched the finished design in shock. A first-grade array? But I've never seen this one in my life, and I've seen my fair share. Zhuo Fan secretly nodded. Xie Tianyang was from the 7 houses, and just like Long Kuei, he had learned of arrays from a young age. But few parts of this array were from an ancient era and not seen today. Thus, he could not understand the array completely. Xie Tianyang studied the design for a long time, then looked at Zhuo Fan with a firm gaze. You're from the 7 houses, no, maybe even imperial. He wasn't certain, because the more he got to know Zhuo Fan, the more Zhuo Fan's talent scared him. So much that he couldn't ascertain which house Zhuo Fan belonged to. He even felt the 7 houses couldn't have raised such a monstrous talent. Then the only one above the houses was the imperial family. Zhuo Fan shook his head. I already said it. It's up to you to believe or not, but now we're working together. Xie Tianyang gave a strained nod. Follow me. Zhuo Fan took out a map and walked ahead with the other 2 close behind. After half a day, Zhuo Fan reached a stream. He gave the area a once-over and nodded. Xuaningxiang and Xie Tianyang were filled with curiosity. This place was even farther away from the Golden Spring Pool, and near the border to the second area in the All-Beast Mountain Range. All-Beast Mountain Range was split into 3 areas based on how dangerous the spiritual beasts were. The first area was the safest, with only first and second level spiritual beasts roaming around, and the seldom third level. These were suited for foundation establishment and qi condensation cultivators to catch as spirit animals. And the Golden Spring Pool was in this area. The second area was the treasure hunting area, a place where 3rd and 4th level spiritual beasts came and went as they pleased. Entering it while being below the bone tempering stage equaled death, but this area was filled with spiritual beasts, an important place from where strong experts got their spirit animals. The third area was deemed as the danger zone. The spiritual beasts here were of 5th and 6th level. Even a radiant stage expert would die here. As such, if one didn't have absolute confidence in his power, he would not step foot here. Zhuo Fan was now standing near the border between the first and second areas. Once they entered the second area, Xuaningxiang, with her qi condensation cultivation, would find death lurking at every corner. Zhuo Fan took a deep breath and nodded. This is it. Xuaningxiang and Xie Tianyang were puzzled, but Zhuo Fan waved. Brother Tianyang, I'll be counting on your burrowing mouse to dig a tunnel to the Golden Spring Pool, then keep digging along this pattern. Zhuo Fan pointed on the map. This is where the Golden Spring Pool is. What? Xie Tianyang said, startled. For it to dig to the Golden Spring Pool is not a problem, but for it to arrange spirit stones and set an array, it will take more than 1,000 trips. Correct, 3221 to be exact. Zhuo Fan nodded. Burrowing mouse is small and can only carry 1 spirit stone at a time. This means it will take 3,221 trips to set the array around the Golden Spring Pool. Xie Tianyang gasped and Xuaningxiang went slack-jawed. You want to work it to death. Even the burrowing mouse seemed to understand and collapsed on Xie Tianyang's shoulder. Shit, this punk is after my life. I can't do this idiotic thing or it'll be the death of me. Burrowing mouse shut its eyes. Even when it fell from the shoulder and landed on a rock, it wouldn't open them, though its twitching gave it away. Zhuo Fan smirked and ignored the critter while talking to its owner. Time is of the essence. Diamond sand could erupt at any minute, so get your critter step on it. Is there no other way? Xie Tianyang asked with a solemn expression. Zhuo Fan smiled. If you can snatch the diamond sand from right under their noses, then be my guess. Xie Tianyang watched the unmoving critter on the ground with pity. Zhuo Fan added an incentive. There's a lot more burrowing mouse where he comes from, but as for diamond sand, hehehe, only if you listen to me will you make a killing. Spurred on, Xie Tianyang's eyes flashed and he nodded. Fine, it's just a first-level spirit animal anyway. Who would need it? Ha ha ha. The burrowing mouse jumped to its feet and pleaded to its owner with teary eyes. Master, how can you be so cruel? I'll end up working to the bone. But Xie Tianyang was too far gone to notice its gesture, as he and Zhuo Fan looked like demons with their manic grins at the poor critter. Xuaningxiang watched the cuddly and pitiful little one and her heart swelled with love. She hugged it and comforted it as she glared at the two demons. But why would any of them care about a critter when diamond sand was at stake? At once, under the stately figure of its master, Xie Tianyang, the burrowing mouse was compelled to dig to Golden Spring Pool. In 15 minutes, a new pattern was beginning to emerge underneath the Golden Spring Pool, all according to Zhuo Fan's grand design. Yet the elder stationed at the Golden Spring Pool was oblivious to everything that was happening right underneath his nose. This was only the beginning for the oppressed burrowing mouse, which was forced to work itself into the ground. The only time the trio saw it was when it came for the next spirit stone. It could take it at first, but once it was finished with its first 100 stones, it was dog-tired that even its fur was slick with sweat around the 500th trip. The critter was gasping. Xuaningxiang's heart was bleeding, wanting to give the poor guy a rest. But Zhuo Fan and Xie Tianyang stood like demons, just like a landlord overlooking his peasants, making sure to leave them dead tired, especially Xie Tianyang. Having nothing but diamond sand in his head, he had no time to mind trifles like getting his spirit animal killed from overworking. This resulted with the burrowing mouse making trip after trip and Xuaningxiang giving it a sip of water on the sly out of pity, the only thing that she could do to ease its hell in the eyes of the little guy. She became a goddess. It was starting to hate itself for choosing poorly. Its owner just heard Demon King Zhuo Fan's 2 cents and was hooked into sending it to its death. When it came out for the final time, it was close to breathing its last. Xuaningxiang hugged it and consoled it, letting it feel the joy of a survivor. Zhuo Fan smiled at Xie Tianyang. See, I told you it'd be fine. Xie Tianyang sighed. Yeah, but this guy would hate me to the bone after this. No choice. If we wanted to have the array in place within 3 days, the only choice was its sacrifice. Zhuo Fan shrugged. If he'd really died of work, then it wouldn't be treated as a first-level spiritual beast. Zhuo Fan stood up and his hand flashed as he deployed another array on the stream's bank. With a hand sign, the spirit stones in the ground lit up. An invisible ripple spread out and the two arrays, thousands of miles from each other, were now connected at almost the same time. The elder at the Golden Spring Pool shivered and opened his eyes with suspicion. What's going on? Why am I restless all of a sudden? Next to the stream, Zhuo Fan revealed a wicked grin. Only one more push. When the diamond sand erupts, Hell Valley's elder would get the shock of his life. Hey. Chapter 61, Heaven and Earth Shift. Chapter 61, Heaven and Earth Shift. With everything in place, Zhuo Fan's party entered an idle period alongside Hell Valley's elder, waiting for the eruption of diamond sand. For a while, everything was quiet and peaceful. Xie Tianyang was feeling bored standing guard every day and thought of training his martial arts, but his worries about the diamond sand erupting and Zhuo Fan hogging it won over that feeling in the end, because he knew Zhuo Fan's mannerism but not his intention, and because he didn't understand Zhuo Fan either. He held some mistrust, while Xuaningxiang seemed to have forgotten about the diamond sand and played with the burrowing mouse every day. Xie Tianyang tried to call the critter over, but the little guy gave him an eye roll, which only worked to embarrass him. It was his spirit animal, yet it was closer with Xuaningxiang. So he switched targets to Zhuo Fan, watching him with a perplexed look. Zhuo Fan was a riddle, be it his background or his origins. In no way would he believe Zhuo Fan's words of coming from a small clan among their group. Zhuo Fan was the calmest. Over the past 10 days all he did was meditate. As if he didn't care about the diamond sand at all, while in fact it also concerned him the most. Zhuo Fan, in Xie Tianyang's mind, was becoming more valued. With how rare such a character existed in the Tianyu Empire, at least he didn't have the state of mind to cultivate while waiting for the diamond sand like Zhuofan. Cultivating with his anxiety and restlessness would only cause a deviation. While Zhuofan, Xie Tianyang scrutinized Zhuofan, feeling envy. A sudden sound woke Zhuofan up, at last, the sixth layer of qi condensation. Xie Tianyang's cheek trembled and showed a resigned expression to break through at such a crucial time. He would never reach Zhuofan's state of mind for years to come. This was how the trio spent the next month. Xie Tianyang was bored out of his mind, Xuaningxiang and the critter played like crazy, sporting smiles every moment, while Zhuofan sat there in meditation rolling his eyes. Xie Tianyang was driven to the point of insanity. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have pushed the burrowing mouse that hard. The critter broke up with him so thoroughly that it wouldn't even come to relieve his boredom. Can't take it anymore. Xie Tianyang wailed. Then a sudden bang resounded across the mountain range and the ground started shaking its time. Zhuofan jumped to his feet. Xuaningxiang, who was playing with the critter, was a bit startled and turned to Zhuofan and Xie Tianyang, but the two didn't look afraid, only excited. Hell Valley's seventh elder stationed at Golden Spring Pool flew higher. Ha ha ha, I have waited 2 months for this. Men, cast the nets to gather the diamond sand. The seventh elder roared and the bone-tempering guards bowed, understood. They then began throwing golden nets into the golden spring pool until it was all shining golden at the same time. At the stream, Zhuofan asked, "Did you prepare a net?" "Ha ha ha, why would I come for diamond sand if I hadn't?" Xie Tianyang laughed and cast his net. Diamond sand erupted along with lava and it needed special nets to filter it. Zhuofan also cast his own golden net into the stream. Xie Tianyang watched him doubtful. "Brother Zhuo, what will you do now?" "Watch closely." Zhuofan smiled with confidence and his hand performed signs: heaven and earth reverse, mountains and river switch, yin and yang shift, twin array exchange. The spirit stones laid underground shined ever brighter and each beam of light pierced the horizon. All around the golden spring pool, 3,221 light pillars towered towards the sky. The seventh elder felt uneasy, but as diamond sand's eruption was imminent, he had no time to mind parlor tricks and fixed his eyes on the hot spring's mouth. Suddenly, a column of water sprouted from the spring, just that the heat from it was far lower. People were stunned seeing this. Reason dictated that along with the eruption of diamond sand, lava should flow out too. The hot spring's water would be so hot that not even a bone-tempering expert should be able to approach. But why was there only plain water? Seventh elder blinked in a daze, then facepalmed. "Damn it, someone's playing us." He rushed higher in the air and saw thousands of light pillars in the distance there. Seventh elder seethed in rage as he charged. "You're dead if you think you can play me." Meanwhile, the stream before Zhuofan's party was gone, replaced by a dark hole that was soon spewing lava along with fine and shiny particles. Diamond sand. Xie Tianyang was overjoyed as he turned to Zhuofan in shock. "Brother Zhuo, you're great. How is the diamond sand erupting here?" Grinning, Zhuofan flatly said, "This array is called Heaven and Earth Shift. It is a mere first-grade array, but it can reverse yin and yang, shift mountains and rivers. I only switched diamond sand's flow to here." Zhuofan said it dully, but Xie Tianyang was shocked to the core. As far as he knew, only 6th grade and above arrays could do that, and they were all lost. But Zhuofan not only did it but used just a first-grade array in the process. He started to recall Zhuofan mentioning Veiled Dragon Pavilion's alliance agreement. It might not be far-fetched for Veiled Dragon Pavilion to make such an agreement if they knew of Brother Zhuo's outrageous talent. Xie Tianyang watched Zhuofan closely with a secret smile. He didn't think he'd meet such a man when he decided to get the diamond sand. There may not be a second person in the empire who can set this array. Xie Tianyang then spoke. "Brother Zhuo, would you like to come into Sword Marquis's abode as a venerable?" Xuaningxiang was tongue-tied. Zhuofan was so young yet he'd get to be a venerable in one of the 7 houses. Zhuofan rolled his eyes and almost made Xuaningxiang stumble with his next words. "Save it. Veiled Dragon Pavilion tried it already and I refused them all the same. That's why they changed to having an alliance agreement." "Brother Zhuo, you're showing off here." Xuaningxiang clearly doubted his words, but Xie Tianyang nodded and said, "All right, I will send someone with an alliance agreement when I get back." "Where do I send it?" "Windgaze City's Luo clan. I will return when I am finished with my affairs." Xie Tianyang hesitated. Then I will wait for your return. I want to sign it with you. With your skills, when you leave the Luo clan in the future, we won't lose out then. Zhuo Fan shook his head. Why are all 7 houses the same? Xue Ningxiang gasped as her face twitched. Sword Marquis's abode is so unruly, why would they want to sign an agreement with an outsider? And it wasn't with a clan, but with a single man. But what escaped her thoughts was that precisely because Xie Tianyang was from the 7 houses that he valued Zhuo Fan so much. The average clan would never see Zhuo Fan's value at this time. The dark cave let out a final eruption of lava. Seeing this, Zhuo Fan urged, "Get the net." "Why the hurry?" Xie Tianyang waved and continued with a smile, "The nets are made of spirit metal. They won't break in lava." Zhuo Fan snorted, "You think I don't know that? If we don't go now, we may not have a life to enjoy it." Xie Tianyang was startled as Zhuo Fan continued, "You think all elders from Hell Valley are blind? Who wouldn't notice the light pillars? Just wait, and you will have a profound heaven expert hovering overhead." Xie Tianyang rushed in with his hand signs to recover the net. As the nets rose, the trio saw the glitters among the lava. And on the net's threads was shining sand. "What do we do now?" Xie Tianyang was happy seeing the net but was aware of the imminent danger. Zhuo Fan dragged them for 12 hours to this place for a reason most obvious, to buy time. Even a profound heaven expert would need 2 hours to reach here during this time. They could retrieve the diamond sand and leave. But where to run was the question. Where was safe? Noticing Zhuo Fan gazing at the stream's opposite bank, the pair shouted, "The second area?" "Wrong." Zhuo Fan said dryly, "The third area." Gasping, the two stared at Zhuo Fan in a daze. Is this guy crazy? The second area is dangerous enough, but going to the third is suicide. But they both were oblivious to the fact that Zhuo Fan's aim from the start was in that area's 6th level spiritual beast, Thunder Skylark. Chapter 62, Chase. Chapter 62, Chase. We'll divide the diamond sand first then flee. Zhuo Fan was getting eager to get his share of the spoils when he saw the glittering dust and gave the two the cold shoulder. Xue Ningxiang and Xie Tianyang smiled bitterly. Ever since they ran into Zhuo Fan, they were led by the nose. Zhuo Fan did whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted. The same went for abusing the critter and setting an array to steal all diamond sand, but all turned out fine in the end. Everything he did was flawless and brought success. So, despite Zhuo Fan making no sense, which added to their worry, the two believed he had a failsafe in place. So Xie Tianyang dropped the issue and was excited by all the glittering dust before him. Whoosh! The dust flowed like water out of the net and filled a 1-meter-tall bucket, and that was just a third. So everyone started taking out any containers they had from their rings, and the coveted diamond sand soon filled vessels of all shapes and sizes. Seeing such a haul, Xie Tianyang was smiling in excitement at first. He hoped to use the burrowing mouse to get a bit of diamond sand, and now, with a weirdo like Zhuo Fan around, they got everything in no time at all. In refining a 5th grade spiritual weapon, a handful of diamond sand was enough to raise its power, making it a top 5th grade spiritual weapon. But with heaps of diamond sand, who knew how many such weapons could be made, and he could even add as much dust as he wanted in the refining process. When refining, people would add a gram, fuse it well, then add another gram, thereby increasing the amount of diamond sand progressively. With this much yield, it's even possible to make a pure diamond sand spiritual weapon. Ha ha ha. Xie Tianyang started laughing. Despite his high position in Sword Marquis's abode and not being poor in the least, compared to the diamond sand before him, it was no different than being a beggar. Zhuo Fan saw Xie Tianyang laugh. His eyes flashed as he turned back to the glittering sand with a smirk. Sword Marquis's abode's disciples are ignorant of the world outside. Zhuo Fan then stashed half of the sand into his ring while he spoke in a flat tone. "This is my share and the rest is yours." Xie Tianyang blinked, then smiled. "No worries, it's fine if you take a bit more." They had struck it rich this time. So, even with Zhuo Fan taking half, it was more than enough for the other two. But in the end, this wealth was divided in two, with Xue Ningxiang having no interest in it. Compared to having such a precious item, she'd rather get out of Blue Expanse City. Zhuo Fan only took his share, leaving hers untouched. Xie Tianyang secretly nodded and took the rest of the diamond sand, and asked Zhuo Fan, "How do we escape now?" Whoosh! Zhuo Fan's hand held a small bottle and took 3 red pills out. He ate one and gave the rest to the two. This is a first-grade pill, energy-concealing pill. It can hide our auras for a whole day and let us pass through the second area while not attracting spiritual beasts. Xie Tianyang looked at the pill with amazement. That's great. Where did you get it? All Beast Mountain Range was a treasure trove that had the continent's cultivators drooling over for thousands of years. Too bad the spiritual beasts were a bit savage and kept the cultivators at bay. If they knew such a pill existed, they'd be fighting over it. Moreover, it was just a first-grade pill. As far as Xie Tianyang knew, the continent didn't have such a pill, or wouldn't the cultivators be flocking here by now? Xuaningxiang was also amazed. Zhuo Fan scratched his nose. I made it. It is unique to me. Xie Tianyang shouted. You're a freaking alchemist too? Perhaps he was a bit too amazing that Xie Tianyang even had to resort to curses. But Zhuo Fan couldn't care less, which was evident from his shrug. Yep, the more skills the better. The shock got to Xie Tianyang so badly that his cheek was twitching. Who the hell is this punk? He's a chi condensation cultivator, yet can match me, a bone tempering cultivator. And now he's an alchemist too. Not only that, but he also sets up a lost array and refines unprecedented pills. Until now he thought that he had met a paragon like himself, just another strong opponent like the few geniuses he found his match in the 7 houses. But with Zhuo Fan revealing that he was also an alchemist, gave Xie Tianyang's psyche a heavy blow. Next time around, he'd never say that he was a genius, at least not when Zhuo Fan was present. Xie Tianyang swallowed the pill and jumped across the stream and into the second area. Let's go. Zhuo Fan and Xuaningxiang were startled. What's up with him? They didn't know that this proud and conceited genius had just fallen from Cloud 9 all the way down into the mortal quagmire. 2 hours later, a grey figure landed next to the stream. It was the 7th Elder. His face was red with rage when he saw the steaming lava, and his hawk eyes flashed with killing intent. Someone pulled the diamond sand here. Squinting, the 7th Elder huffed a few times then calmed down. But the coldness on his face grew thicker. He looked around and muttered, they just got the diamond sand and shouldn't have run far. If they stayed in the first area, death was only a matter of time. Then, the 7th Elder turned to the opposite bank with a sneer. Think you can get rid of me with parlor tricks? Then he soared into the second area. 100 miles out, Zhuo Fan's party was running when a sudden cawing came from behind, followed by crows taking to the sky. Zhuo Fan stopped and looked back with a frown. What? Xie Tianyang and Xuaningxiang also stopped. What's going on? Zhuo Fan muttered, that elder is charging right into the second area. What? Xie Tianyang was anxious. What now? He will catch up in no time. Zhuo Fan sighed. I don't know. I thought that the elder would first search the first area after inspecting the lava, just to be sure. Thus, buying us enough time. Moreover, the second area is notoriously dangerous, so I guessed he wouldn't come here to search so soon. That is why I picked this area to flee. And by the time he'd figure it out, we'd have a 6-hour lead. And for his safety in the second area, he'd be flying far slower to avoid 4th-level spiritual beasts. At that point, we'd be in the third area and he'd ultimately given up the chase. In that area, he will be in the same boat as us, food for the spiritual beasts. So he'd never go in after us. Zhuo Fan squinted, yet he went for the second area from the start. In this case, we only have 1 hour lead. If he catches up to us here, we're dead. Brother Zhuo, haven't you heard of the 7th Elder and what he is famous for? Xie Tianyang asked. Zhuo Fan was startled. I only knew that a Hell Valley's elder was stationed here, but not the details. Sighing, Xie Tianyang shook his head. Know your enemy and yourself and you shall win 100 battles. It's normal for you to make a mistake when you don't even know how dreadful the 7th Elder is. Dreadful? Zhuo Fan frowned. Xie Tianyang said in a severe tone, he is greatly admired in Hell Valley, and even Valley Lord Yuanshan consults with him. Or he wouldn't have left such an important city in the 7th Elder's charge. You're saying he's strong? Zhuo Fan's brow twitched. Xie Tianyang shook his head, not his strength, but his schemes. He is cunning and deceitful, known as the insidious demon. His mind is filled with schemes. Many elders of the 7 houses have fallen in his ploys. Even Veiled Dragon Pavilion's elder Ju lost his purple lightning gold eye because of the 7th Elder's plot. Many hate him to the bone, but even more fear him. No wonder Zhuo Fan's plan fell through. He is another who plays open schemes. This kind of plot is useless against him. But the die was cast and Zhuo Fan's only choice was to beat him at his own game. Brother Zhuo, our only choice is to leave Lady Ninga behind. With our speed, we may be able to escape the seventh elder's clutches. Xie Tianyang's eyes flashed as he spoke firmly. Xue Ningxiang shuddered and grabbed Zhuo Fan's arm with a pitiful look. Brother Zhuo, you promised to get me out. Brother Zhuo, this is not the time to be soft. Leave her behind. She will stall the seventh elder while we escape. Xie Tianyang's mind was set. Zhuo Fan squinted as he contemplated, then sneered at Xie Tianyang. Humph, if not for my energy-concealing pill, you'd have thrown me away too. Xie Tianyang's mouth pursed. Zhuo Fan laughed it off and said, I won't abandon anyone. As for that elder, I have my way to deal with him. I will fight him right here, with an array. Xie Tianyang nodded after a careful ponder. He knew of Zhuo Fan's skills in arrays and was certain that Zhuo Fan was an array grandmaster. Xue Ningxiang was beaming as she heard him and was swinging Zhuo Fan's arm on and on with a red tint on her cheeks, but they both failed to notice Zhuo Fan's odd smile at the end. Chapter 63, Thunderflame Gale Array. Chapter 63, Thunderflame Gale Array. Whoosh! Beneath the shade of the forest, a grey figure flitted by. The moment a spiritual beast saw him, it would jump on him with greedy eyes, but the beast would ultimately fall to the ground lifeless with an extra fist imprint on its chest. The seventh elder's eyes turned darker, but his speed remained the same. Unlike Zhuo Fan, his flight attracted no little amount of trouble, yet this only left a trail of third-level spiritual beasts' corpses behind. He was lucky enough that he did not meet a fourth-level spiritual beast, or it would have been a slightly different outcome. Whoosh! Suddenly, he landed in an open area. He checked for tracks, making sure nothing escaped his sight. Hey, three little brats. Want to run? The seventh elder sneered. He stood upright and scrutinized his surroundings with a cold eye. Will you come out yourselves, or shall I drag you out? His yell bathed the trees in killing intent and scared off nearby spiritual beasts. Ha ha ha, I see the seventh elder is not without his reputation. No wonder you are called insidious demon, finding how many we are just from a few faint signs. I am in awe. Zhuo Fan's laughter resounded through the air. The seventh elder frowned and paid closer attention. Kid, you have just entered the sixth layer of chi condensation. Good ears. The hidden Zhuo Fan felt his heart go cold. This elder was shrewder than he'd thought, a hard opponent, but he still kept his cool. Seventh elder must be tired after such a long chase. And fighting here will attract fourth-level spiritual beasts. It will be quite an annoyance to you. What if we strike a deal? Which is? The seventh elder snorted and his cold eyes flitted around the area. Zhuo Fan smiled. Seventh elder chased us for so long, all for the diamond sand. If we give you half, are you willing to let us go? You must be joking. The diamond sand was mine to begin with. You want to bargain with what you stole from me? The seventh elder laughed while being shrouded in thick killing intent. I will not only get my diamond sand but wring the life out of you, brat. Then the elder rushed towards a lush tree. He struck it with his palm and made it explode, to reveal Zhuo Fan sitting on the rock behind it. Hey, brat, you knew of my sharp hearing yet still talked about conditions with me. The seventh elder went for another palm attack, this time targeting Zhuo Fan. But the latter was calm as ever. He even smiled. Hey, I've never been afraid of revealing myself from the start. Zhuo Fan's hand shifted and boom! With a loud noise, from behind Zhuo Fan, a towering flame rose 50 meters high. And with a bird cry, it took the shape of a phoenix. It spread its wings and launched 2 fire pillars at seventh elder. Array! The elder was startled as he didn't foresee the weak brat would know about arrays. From the look of its power, it had to be in 5th grade. No longer careless, he struck the pillars with his palms. Boom! Raging flames exploded and the elder was thrown back with burned palms. Looking up, the elder's carefree eyes from before sported a hint of severity. Now I took you lightly. The seventh elder squinted, never imagining a 6th layer of chi condensation youth was a 5th grade array master. Too bad it won't be enough to beat me. The seventh elder soared and made a sign. A fiendish demonic shadow rose behind him from the twisting black tendrils of energy. Wails echoed around him and made the temperature drop. Shuafan's eyes squinted and his tone lowered. Such a malevolent demonic method, is this from Hell Valley's inheritance? Hey, why do the dead need to know so much? The seventh elder cackled and pointed. The demonic shadow rushed at Shuafan with a shriek. Shuafan responded with a hand sign. The fire phoenix cried and spat flames. Bam! Flames and shadow collided in an anticlimactic way. When the fire touched the demon, hissing was heard as if it was met with ice. The seventh elder looked proud of this while Shuafan squinted. Ninga, now. A faint cry echoed, and from another side not far from Shuafan, a fierce gale hammered through the woods and exposed Xueningsiang sitting on a stone. At Shuafan's call, she made the hand signs he had taught her. A chilling wind picked up and flew like a blade as it fused into the fire phoenix's attack. The fire pillar expanded 10 times in a blink and started pushing back the demonic shadow. The seventh elder's face turned grave and made hand signs to strengthen the demonic shadow, but with the help of Xueningsiang, Shuafan was getting the upper hand, and the seventh elder started sweating. He never saw it coming. Another person was controlling the array. But before he could think of a countermeasure, Shuafan shouted again. Xie Tianyang, he's yours. Ha ha ha, I was waiting for this. See how I splatter the brains of a profound heaven expert. Under Xie Tianyang's incessant cackling, lightning burst and revealed him sitting on the other side of Shuafan and across from Xueningsiang. Xie Tianyang made a hand sign and launched a 50-meter-long lightning dragon. With a roar, it flashed right into the demonic shadow boom. As lightning entered the shadow, it triggered an explosion. The demonic shadow could not overcome the multiple increases in power and was blown into black pieces, soon becoming nothing but ash. The seventh elder spatted blood. This defied all logic. Today, 3 brats hurt him, but the brats were far from done and battered him with the thunderflame gale again. If he didn't do something now, he'd be heavily wounded, he may even die. The seventh elder braced himself and waved the centipede-like chain that suddenly appeared in his hand. Boom. The thunderflame gale attack was blown away as the elder took a few steps back. Shuafan's side also shivered as each of them felt blood stagnating in their chest. It was a tie. 4th grade demonic treasure. Shuafan turned serious. The seventh elder gasped and barked, good, well done. I've traveled the world for so long, but today, 3 brats have reduced me to this state. He turned to Shuafan, I admit you're strong. If we continue, it will end with both sides dead. It's better to take your previous deal. Give me half of diamond sand and I will go. The 3 exchanged glances. Xueningsiang and Xie Tianyang didn't want to offend Hell Valley and nodded. Shuafan showed an amiable smile. All right, let's make the deal. He then jumped off the stone. The seventh elder took back his weapon and flew towards Shuafan. When they were 10 meters apart, suddenly both their eyes flashed with murderous intent. Die, brat. Finish him. Shouting at the same time, the seventh elder revealed his demonic treasure and flung it at Shuafan while the latter made hand signs. The flames and the centipede chain clashed. Xie Tianyang and Xueningsiang were startled. Even though they missed the first clash, they soon sent lightning and wind blade toward the elder. The seventh elder couldn't dodge and had to destroy their attacks with his chain once again, but he was also forced to retreat to the skies. Eyeing Shuafan, the elder's face turned green and white from rage. Bastard, who would believe you? He takes a demonic cultivator to no one. Shuafan smirked. Xueningsiang and Xie Tianyang witnessed this in a daze. Who the hell are they? One is more despicable than the other. None of them is worth trusting. Both of them had only one thought since the beginning: kill. They're too damn vile, treacherous, insidious. Had one of them trusted the other, then their side would have died by now. This thought made the 2 gasp and their eyes darted at Shuafan. Thank God we have one just as vile and insidious among us. Or we'd be dead for sure. Chapter 64, Bait. Chapter 64, Bait. I need to calm down first. The seventh elder took a deep breath and inspected the area with wrinkled brows. He found that the recovery of diamond sand was becoming a headache, and when he knew the trio ran into the second area, he confirmed it with his experience. He could easily discover their meager cultivation. And with the highest among them being the 7th layer of bone tempering stage, it was no different than squeezing 3 insects. What was unbelievable though, one of them had a deep knowledge of arrays along with a cunning mind. unlike a rash and ignorant youth he posed to be. This led to the current predicament. With the three working together to control the array, he would never get the upper hand. However, he thought of something and his hawk eyes flashed sinisterly. You are Shui clan's third young miss. The seventh elder ignored Shui Fan and switched targets, sizing Shui Ningxiang with a smile. I remember seeing you 5 years ago. You were just a child back then. My, how you've grown into a fine lady. Shui Ningxiang's heart seized and lowered her head to avoid his piercing gaze. Shui Fan shouted, Seventh elder, if you have something to say it to my face. Don't go around scaring girls. Yet the seventh elder's eyes never left Shui Ningxiang. Ninga, why do you bother going against me? Shui clan is a vassal of Hell Valley. We always took care of your Shui clan. And yet here you are, resorting to this. His eyes flashed with murder as he spoke. Shui Ningxiang shivered and could no longer keep the hand sign up. Shui Fan knew that the seventh elder was threatening Shui Ningxiang and rushed to say, attack. He and Xie Tianyang synced their hand signs, launching lightning and fire at the seventh elder. But Shui Ningxiang was still in a daze, her hands trembling. Xie Tianyang thought, damn, Shui Ningxiang is worried for her clan and has no will to fight. Without the wind's help, there'll be a sharp decline in power. The seventh elder was fighting a psychological battle, grasping the trio's weakness. Fire and lightning combined as it neared the elder, but his centipede chain just flew at it and the attack was nulled. The seventh elder stood still in the sky while Shui Fan and Xie Tianyang spat blood. Ha ha ha, that's better. The seventh elder cackled, Ninga, you made the right choice. These brats will wash their hands over this and leave from here, while your clan will stay forever. Shui Fan looked at the shivering Shui Ningxiang and urged, Ninga, don't listen to the old goat. He knows who you are and will destroy your clan either way. The only way to save the Shui clan is to kill him here and now. Remember my words, the Thunderflame Gale array needs 3 people to work together, and as long as the 3 are in sync, not even a profound heaven expert can escape. Another shiver reeked Shui Ningxiang's frail body and now she stood still. The seventh elder's words scared her, but she had finally recovered. Shui Fan smirked and shouted, if this old coot lives, your clan is no more. Boom. His words echoed in her ears and Shui Ningxiang rose her head to show killing intent for the first time as she muttered non-stop, he can't leave. He has to die, he must. Die. Shui Ningxiang roared the last word and completed the hand sign. A green panther roared behind her and sped towards the seventh elder, 10 times stronger than before. The elder panicked, noticing the true power of the array in Shui Ningxiang's hands. From the start, the 2 brats used all they had in fighting me, yet she hadn't. Shui Ningxiang was a kind and gentle soul, not willing to kill even her enemy. But the seventh elder's words struck a chord in her frail heart that she was close to losing her will for fighting. It was then that Shui Fan woke her up and lit a fire in her. The dissonance in her heart led to unleashing her full power. To protect her clan, Shui Ningxiang turned cold and unfeeling like a reaper. She was willing to do anything and everything to make sure the old geezer died here. Shui Fan and Xie Tianyang smiled and launched their own attacks. Fire, wind, and lightning combined at their strongest into an overpowering strike that threatened to consume the seventh elder. Even the calm and collected seventh elder was starting to feel fear. He hastily lifted the centipede chain and lashed. Boom. A huge explosion shook the entire second area and even the sky seemed to collapse. Some 4th-level spiritual beasts even fled. The seventh elder, who was caught in the middle, was blasted a dozen meters with his hair and beard singed as he spat blood. But this time, the blood evaporated before it touched the ground. It was proof of the intensity of the attack that pierced his inner organs. With such a heavy wound, just one more and he'd be done for. For the first time, the seventh elder panted with fear in his eyes. Not even he could foresee that the array needed just the girl to flip out for unleashing its full power, but he understood that he would not be able to take more of such attacks. On his last leg. Ninga, Xie Tianyang, get ready. We'll finish him off. Shui Fan laughed as he made another hand sign, but a sudden green panther beat him and Xie Tianyang to the punch. All Shui Fan saw was Shui Ningxiang going crazy and making signs on and on as she raved, he has to die, he must die. Damn, this girl has lost it. I managed to spur her on, but now she is too far gone. Her only thought is to kill the old goat, even disregarding cooperation with her allies. Her action was limiting the array's power. The seventh elder noticed this weakness and smiled as he charged for Xuanningsiang. He was only facing a wind panther, and without the other two elements, he could breeze through it. With a swing of the centipede chain, the panther was no more quickly help Ninga. Zhuo Fan panicked as he formed hand signs alongside Xie Tianyang. Once again lightning and fire came at the seventh elder, yet such lack of cooperation lost the array's advantage and the seventh elder dealt with it easily. He flung the centipede chain, removing this nuisance, and appeared before Xuanningsiang, but she sank in. Making hand signs, the seventh elder snorted and clutched her neck, lifting her off the ground. Xuanningsiang began suffocating and her hands slowed down. Crazy girl, you almost had me killed. Consider yourself lucky since you still have some use, or I'd have killed you already. Ninga, Zhuo Fan and Xie Tianyang stood up with worry. The seventh elder mocked them. What are you brats called anyway? Sit tight, I will deal with you in a moment. Zhuo Fan clenched his fists. Cough, cough, cough. Xuanningsiang coughed, looking at Zhuo Fan with pleading eyes. Kill him, don't let him harm my father. He, what a carrying daughter. You're still thinking about your father? Too bad these two brats have no way of killing me. Once I get back, I'll make sure to wipe the Xue clan for good. Tears glistened down Xuanningsiang's cheeks. Xie Tianyang's heart hurt and roared in anger. Hell Valley Elder, does one of your stature even know what shame is to raise your hand on a defenseless girl? There's no such thing as shame in a demonic cultivator's vocabulary. The seventh elder cackled and turned to Zhuo Fan. Brat, you're just like this old man, stirring this girl's will to fight with a few words. I would have taken you as my disciple if not for us being enemies. You hurt my friend, so you must die by my hands. Zhuo Fan's tone was irreproachable. Xie Tianyang, get ready to strike. But Ninga also agreed. Zhuo Fan's eyes flashed with a hard look. Xie Tianyang felt cold as he looked at Zhuo Fan, then saw the pleading eyes of Xuanningsiang and sighed. This old man must die, or he will slaughter the Xue clan and Ninga won't ever find peace, even in death. Xie Tianyang then yelled as he made hand signs. The lightning dragon roared as it encroached on the seventh elder. Zhuo Fan, with his red eyes, also shouted and the phoenix behind him spread its wings. This was the strongest power they managed to unleash through their cooperation, but to all this, the seventh elder's answer was disdain. Humph, I have already figured out this array. Without wind, just you two are nothing. Xie Tianyang gnashed his teeth. Would our full power attack amount to nothing? Would we meet our end at his hands? Furthermore, Ninga's clan would be doomed. But Zhuo Fan revealed an evil grin. Who said we lacked wind? His hands shifted through the signs and the seventh elder was swallowed by a tornado, turning his immediate surrounding into a wind prison. Then came the lightning dragon and fire phoenix boom. Fire and lightning mixed, erupting in a spectacular fashion on contact with the tornado, burning everything within into nothing. This display of power was twice as strong as their best attack. This time the elder should be dead. Xie Tianyang watched it all at a loss. What? How the wind appeared. Zhuo Fan smiled. Unlike someone who just lost a friend, I told you before that I can't control the 5th grade array by myself and need all three of us to work together, right? Well, I lied. That 7th elder would have seen through you and I couldn't have deceived him in the end. What, all, was a lie? Xie Tianyang stammered. Zhuo Fan smiled. Insidious demon is beyond sharp, he is Hell Valley's sage. If I fight him alone, defeat is certain. So I arranged for you two to work with me in controlling the array and help conserve power. But this wasn't without its weakness. Us three had to be in full cooperation to unleash its greatest power. Him being the insidious demon, he would find this out with ease and would target the weakest among us. It's clear Ninga is that person and he would attack her. But he would have never guessed Ninga was the bait I laid out for him. So, he fell right into my trap. Why you saying that you had planned on giving up on Ninga from the start? Xie Tianyang gasped. Zhuo Fan felt like a stranger to him. He still recalled how Zhuo Fan yelled at Ninga, I won't leave anyone behind, his eyes filled with righteousness. Was it all an act? What's with that look? Zhuo Fan sneered. Didn't you say to leave Ninga behind and flee, that she was a burden? I only thought of a more appropriate use of this burden. What of your promise to her? Xie Tianyang swallowed dryly. I heard you promised Ninga to take her outside the city. Zhuo Fan waved it off. The result's the same, be it living or otherwise. Seeing Zhuo Fan's casual manner, Xie Tianyang felt numb and a chill crawled up his spine. After working together for over a month, he had thought that he somewhat understood Zhuo Fan's character. But now it felt like he was talking to a stranger. Such sheer cruelty made him, a 7th layer of bone-tempering expert, feel more fear than facing a radiant stage expert. But laughter came from amidst the Thunderflame Gale prison. Chapter 65, Insidious Demon. Chapter 65, Insidious Demon. Ha ha ha, kid, you're just like me. Selfish, cruel, heartless, and won't even hesitate to use your own men. Even I'm feeling a bit afraid of you. Boom. The Thunderflame Gale prison blew away with a loud noise to reveal the sinister smiling 7th Elder. Yet now he held another centipede chain in his hand, this one black. The 2 chains formed a helix around him, sparing his life from the dreadful attack. But even so, his body was littered with burn marks, and one could even see the bone in some places as blood seeped out. It was obvious that he survived because of these chains, and that too against the true power of the Thunderflame Gale array. After spitting some burning blood, the 7th Elder gasped. But his wicked eyes never left Zhuo Fan for a moment. Kid, I have always been quick to pick up on things related to my enemies everywhere I went, but today you almost had me kill. I have to admit, I never met such dreadful brat in my life. Zhuo Fan looked over to see Xuaningxiang unconscious at his feet. But she wasn't dead. Perhaps the chain helix protected her the same way it protected the Elder, but it wasn't like Zhuo Fan cared if she lived or died. He just kept staring at the black centipede chain. You have another 4th grade demonic treasure? Hehehe, I used to have only one. The 7th Elder joined the 2 centipede chains together to form a black and white chain. This 4th grade demonic treasure, yin-yang chains, are of one body. I usually attack with the yang chain and use the yin chain to kill my enemy at the right time. But to save myself today, you forced me to reveal my yin chain. You should be proud of that. Even profound heaven experts only figure out the truth at the moment of their death. Zhuo Fan gnashed his teeth. The Insidious Demon title fits you like a glove. You were willing to suffer a heavy wound just to keep this move hidden. But of course. The 7th Elder coughed blood twice, but his face still retained the sinister smile. With how the world is filled with lies and schemes, I prefer to keep my strongest move hidden. That is why my ploys always succeed while the ones against me fail. But today is the exception. The 7th Elder's eyes flashed and threw the yang chain at Zhuo Fan and the yin chain at Xie Tianyang as he roared, "Too bad you're out of tricks and can't beat me. I beg to differ." Zhuo Fan smirked and made a hand sign, making a bloody light fly out of Xuaningxiang towards the 7th Elder. The Elder was seriously hurt and the chains were far away. Zhuo Fan watched him like a hawk just to find if he also had a defensive demonic treasure. This way he could put Blood Infant to good use in his sorry state. If Blood Infant was to get inside the 7th Elder, he'd be refined without even a means to resist. This was Zhuo Fan's true killing move. Even the Thunderflame Gale prison was only used as bait to reveal all the Elder's cards. Zhuo Fan refused to believe a man with the Insidious Demon fame had no hidden means to save himself. Demonic creature. On the other hand, the 7th Elder was startled by the bloody light. He now figured out what Zhuo Fan really intended when he said Xuaningxiang was the bait. It wasn't just to trap him in the Thunderflame Gale prison but to also hide a killing move. With how close he was to her, he had no way of dodging. Insidious Demon had to admire Zhuo Fan's cunning mind for beating him at every turn. Zhuo Fan was expectant of victory as he smiled. "It's over, 7th Elder. This fight is my win." Suddenly, the 7th Elder's yang chain pierced through Zhuo Fan's chest. He felt his heart being crushed. A large hole was left behind on his body, with pieces of his heart here and there. This is impossible. Zhuo Fan was confident that the Blood Infant would gain control of the 7th Elder once it entered him, also stopping the yang chain's attack. But the truth was, the chain never stopped. Zhuo Fan even felt his organs withering and seeping life force. This wasn't caused by the chain, but by Blood Infant's injury. Puking blood, Zhuo Fan watched in shock as Blood Infant hung behind the 7th Elder. A flash of silver revealed a needle impaling Blood Infant's chest. 3rd grade demonic treasure, Twisted Needle. The 7th Elder sneered at Zhuo Fan and pulled back the twisted needle into his elbow. Blood Infant collapsed and Zhuo Fan fell to his knees. His eyes were filled with dread. He couldn't believe he just lost Bam. A sound was heard from the side. Xie Tianyang struggled for his life, but the yin chain lashed over his chest and he was now spitting blood. It was thanks to his spiritual armor that he was still breathing. Ignoring the rest, the seventh elder walked to Zhuofan calmly. Kid, I am known as the insidious demon. How can anyone outsmart me? The seventh elder watched the dying Zhuofan. You're good, real good. Your schemes even make me feel fear. In a decade or two, you will become an outstanding demonic cultivator. Not even the #1 sage in Tianyu can compare to you. A pity you won't live so long, because I am afraid of what you'll become. You are the first to ever make me feel this way. He was about to land the finishing blow. You might die at my hand, but do not feel bad. Our cunningness is about the same, but I am stronger. In front of true power, all tricks, all methods are moot. The seventh elder's palm came from above and Zhuofan could even hear the whistling wind. He didn't want to die, but he had nothing left to fight with. A loss was a loss, be it in power or cunningness. And the one to lose, died. But he had so many things he wanted to do, so what? The loser never had a choice to begin with. Closing his eyes, Zhuofan took one last breath and blacked out. Roar. A sudden roar shook the entire all-beast mountain range and the seventh elder's palm stopped an inch above Zhuofan's head. Along with the roar, a wave of flames came to engulf everything. It swallowed trees and left empty husks behind. The seventh elder was startled. Looking towards the third area, he said with uncertainty, why is this monster coming to the second area? Taking another look at the hopeless trio, he gnashed his teeth and fled, even disregarding the diamond sand. A bird cry soon followed and the skies darkened. A huge bird wing trailed above, overshadowing the earth. The spiritual beasts shivered in their caves. The huge bird's wing burned blue, and each flap sent sparks everywhere. Wherever the sparks landed, flames torched all of it into nothing. The previously lush forest was now reduced to ash after the bird passed. Not even bones were left of the fourth-level spiritual beasts touched by the flames. The huge bird flew for a while then left, but the forest beneath it was no more. Zhuofan and the other two were lying unconscious among the ashes. Some spiritual beasts passed by, but finding them dead, they left. In fact, it was thanks to the energy-concealing pill that hid their auras. Cough, cough, cough. With a light cough, Xuaningxiang strained her eyes open, but shock swept her heart. Why is the forest gone and only ash remained? The seventh elder couldn't have done this. She looked around in haste for Zhuofan and Xie Tianyang and saw them lying unconscious. Zhuofan had the most critical injury, bleeding from the hole in his chest. He wasn't too far from breathing his last. Chapter 66, Guilt. Chapter 66, Guilt. Brother Zhuo. Xuaningxiang was on Zhuofan with a cry and turned him over to see the fist-sized wound in his chest which went all the way through his back. His face paled by the second and his temperature dropped. Tears welled in Xuaningxiang's eyes and fell along with her anxious voice. Brother Zhuo, wake up, wake up. Perhaps it was the soft tears or the incessant shouts grating on his ears that made Zhuofan crack his eyelids. Brother Zhuo, you're awake. Xuaningxiang was glad Zhuofan moved his lips but was too weak to even let out words. Watching her tear-stained face, Zhuofan took a deep breath and squeezed his last drop of energy into pointing, but his hand soon fell limp. Xuaningxiang caught his gesture and saw blood infant in a pool of blood. You want me to bring it over? She asked. Zhuofan blinked weakly, the only thing he could do in his current state. Xuaningxiang thus marched to blood infant and was soon back with it in her arms. She then placed it on the hole in Zhuofan's chest. Blood infant flashed red and was back in Zhuofan's body. He let out a breath as his complexion started improving slightly. His and blood infant's lives were shared, so much so that its wound was far more important than his own injury. As long as blood infant was fine, him suffering heavy wounds would matter little. But now blood infant's life hung by a thread. Without his blood essence, he could only keep it alive for a short while longer. He was in a worse condition too and had no way to save it. But as blood infant was kept alive, a bit of energy returned to him. Blood. Zhuofan whispered hoarsely. Xuaningxiang paused a moment, then cut her wrist with a dagger and brought her hand to Zhuofan's lips. The girl's blood dripped in Zhuofan's mouth and he slowly recovered a bit more energy. Xuaningxiang let out a relieved sigh and even sported a faint smile, but Zhuofan suddenly bit her wrist, sucking the blood out. Xuaningxiang braced through the pain and let him have his fill. Time passed, but Zhuofan's appetite didn't drop. Xuaningxiang's face paled and was even getting woozy. She knew it was from the blood loss, but she didn't stop him when Zhuofan finally let go and gasped for fresh air. He saw Xuaningxiang's pale countenance and felt complicated. Thank you. Zhuofan now had the strength to speak, thanks to the blood. Xuaningxiang smiled. She was feeling weak, but her smile looked mesmerizing to Zhuofan. Recalling his previous act, his heart began to feel guilt with a thought. A blue bottle flashed in his hand. Ninga, these are third-grade heart-protecting pills. Give me one, you take the second and give the third to the kid if he isn't dead. Xuaningxiang nodded and fed the first pill to him. She checked Xie Tianyang and found him alive. Excited, she fed him a pill but saved hers. Zhuofan was laid on the ground, but his heart was clear. Ninga, you are also hurt. Why aren't you taking it? Ninga shook her head. It's only a scratch. This pill is too precious and it's better used on you too. Ha ha ha, not in the least. It came from Veiled Dragon Pavilion anyway, so don't worry. Zhuofan smiled. He came to All Beast Mountain Range prepared, not only in spirit stones but also in pills. Since the Imperial family and Veiled Dragon Pavilion were providing the Luo clan with stuff, he had everything besides the truly rare pills. Some of his pills were something not found even in the entire Tianyu Empire, refined by yours truly. I didn't think I'd use them so fast. Ninga, take it, it's yours. A snort came and Xuaningxiang turned towards Xie Tianyang. He was also worse for wear, not life-threatened like Zhuofan, but he couldn't move. Still, he would need 3 to 5 months to heal. Zhuofan couldn't budge, but neither could he. Even so, his fear of Zhuofan wasn't that high and said with a clipped tone, Ninga, this big brother Zhuo wanted to use you as bait from the start. This is his just deserts. When Zhuofan exposed his plan, she was already unconscious in the Thunderflame Gale prison explosion. But hearing it now, she was startled and looked at Zhuofan with the hope that he'd deny. She refused to believe that brother Zhuo, who stood by her side for over a month, would be so cruel as to throw her away. She hoped this was a misunderstanding, that Zhuofan would refute Xie Tianyang's claims. But Zhuofan remained silent, and his cold eyes refused to meet hers. For the first time, with tears welling, Xuaningxiang forced her sorrow down, but her heart felt like being stabbed with a knife. She didn't realize when, but Zhuofan meant a lot to her. She didn't feel hate for being cast out, but pain. Sensing her pain, Zhuofan hesitated. Ninga, it's fine, you don't need to say anything. Xuaningxiang wiped her nose and forced a smile. I know brother Zhuo is brave and smart, that all went according to your plan. I'm sure it's a misunderstanding. She whipped her head around and left. I'm going to look for branches and make a stretcher. We can't keep staying here. Watching her walk away like nothing had happened, Xie Tianyang rose an eyebrow. Hey, Ninga, you're going to forgive him just like that? He is hurt and can't move. Now's your chance for revenge. Yet Xuaningxiang didn't return. Xie Tianyang wanted to yell again, but then Zhuofan's snort came. Zip it. If you want to die, just ask. Humph, you have it worse than me, let's see you try. Xie Tianyang put up a tough front, but fear gnawed his heart because of the naked killing intent laced in Zhuofan's words. Seeing with his own eyes how Zhuofan had fought the seventh elder, he knew the horror Zhuofan could unleash. Despite losing, Zhuofan played with that insidious demon to such a state. He felt both fear and hatred towards Zhuofan, hate for his unfeeling heart to his friends and fear from his cunning mind. But then a new feeling triumphed them both, something the genius disciple of Sword Marquis Abode never felt before. Or Xuaningxiang was soon back with wood and made 2 stretchers. When she placed them both on each, Zhuofan wanted to apologize but swallowed his words when he saw her avoiding him rumble. With a thunderclap, the rain started pouring down on the ashen forest and helped the saplings grow. Xuaningxiang tied the stretchers with rope and trudged through the mud. Because of the heavy rain, the rough mountain path, and the blood loss, she fell down again and again, but she pressed on like a machine, dragging them ever forward. The 3 never spoke a word the entire time. Even Xie Tianyang's complaints about taking revenge fell silent. The 2 felt worse and worse the more they saw Xuaningxiang's pale face as she pulled them. Xie Tianyang was the first to mention casting her away for being weak. Zhuofan went a step further by rejecting the idea in a dignified manner, only to throw her out as bait not much later. And now, the 2 were in dire straits, useless for months to come. But Xuaningxiang's heart remained steady and firm, never abandoning them. The 2 felt heavy in their hearts from the huge debt they had for her. How can we ever repay it? On the muddy and slick mountain road, A bump appeared and the burrowing mouse revealed itself. It ran towards Xuaningxiang as soon as it came out. Now that she saw the little guy, her smile came back on her face. Since losing it when she found of Zhuofan's betrayal, afraid of Critter suffering, she drove it away before their fight with the seventh elder. But now it came back. The little guy was jumping around her leg in joy, then skipped ahead of her. Xuaningxiang guessed that it was showing the way and dragged the stretchers to a cave. Happy, she pulled the two people into the cave for sheltering from the rain and healing their wounds. But Zhuofan looked around once and shouted in panic, "We can't stay here, we have to leave now." You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.